Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
He won 13, Pistons 108, 27 seconds to go. Butler has it. Fonseca on him as he works along the arc. He'll fire a three. He'll make the three. 15th straight game for Butler. Now working on Pringle. Into the paint, 2-foot jump stop. Puts it back to the goal. Hits a diving out. Going to the rim. Layup, no. Rebounded by Handlockton. Out to Richard. Wing left three. Good! Off the 100th offensive rebound of the year for Micah Handlockton. A three on second chance.
And this big lead, 81-46. Inbounds to Baycott. It's already made 1 3. Give him 2! Big fella. Big fella. He had made 2 all year.
58-43 Kansas. Clear lob for Hunter. Deep catch. Gets the bucket to go. And the foul. A chance at 3 for Hunter Dickinson.
Tipped out by Zach Edey into the hands of a Boilermaker, Mason Gillis. He throws it ahead to Braden Smith. Illinois is not going to foul. Illinois is not going to foul. And the Purdue Boilermakers are going to come on the road and win at the State Farm Center and ruin Illinois' senior day. Purdue 77, Illinois 71.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing lovely.
Are you just saying that?
No, I'm actually doing pretty good.
You got a little pep in your voice?
You know, people say that all the time. They say I'm a very peppy person.
I don't imagine anybody would ever say that. I'm just saying.
I'm pretty low key.
Yeah,
I'm pretty low key.
I'd say that. Listen, and it's not like I'm Mr. Loud Talker either. It's just I get probably twice a show.
Yeah.
Ravi's loud. You're so quiet. I don't know, man. I think that's Shane.
Shane, cut it.
But when we go to like the stick mics and kind of tinker with the setup a little bit, I think people will be.
Yeah, we'll get maybe a little more.
When I walk around like Shane yesterday.
Voluminous.
No. Did you say voluptuous?
Voluminous.
Like light up? I hear lumen in there. Is it?
No, it's more volume.
Oh,
Voluminous.
I love when you talk to me like I have about a 61 IQ. That's awesome. Shane yesterday walking around because he can't hear. We talked to him for however long after the show. He can't hear a thing.
Yeah.
So I finally make fun of him, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, he can hear.
Oh, come on, Shane.
I can't hear you guys. That's what happened. Well, back on 10th Street in the old studio, there was only one. Can you imagine only having one mic level adjuster in a studio?
That's a terrible setup.
Yeah, that was pretty awful.
And Shane allegedly blew his eardrum out.
That's not good. That's bad for a. That's a
Shane.
tough.
Is it your left ear or your right ear?
That's my right ear.
Is it? Now I feel bad.
So instead of like Lisa Left Eye Lopez, we could have like Shane Right Ear Schillerberg.
R.I.P.
Maybe.
Pour one out for Left Eye. Didn't she burn down Andre Rison's house?
Yes.
That's a tough look for Lefty there.
Nothing like a woman scorned.
Yeah, apparently.
Or nutty dudes.
Or both. I mean,
or a producer scorn.
I think there's
Shane, I don't know if you have that kind of gas in you. No pun intended.
To burn down somebody's house?
Yeah, Shane would feel bad.
Yeah, I think so. He'd think better of it before it happened.
I care about you. Here's some.
Thank you. I care
about you.
I care about you too,
I care about what we got on the show today. Good stuff. We have
a lot of quickies.
Yeah, a lot of quick hits with the coaches as we wrap up our state basketball previews. Not going to wrap up our coverage because obviously games start today. But wrapping up our
did
previews.
They start today?
Yeah, allegedly. I think this afternoon. What's the first one? 1:30?
Yeah.
Class A?
Yes.
Yes. So on
1, 3:45, 6, and 7:45.
It's popping up on us quick here. Coming up at 7:30, which is also coming up quick on us here, is Bruce Chubick Jr., the head coach at Omaha Central. 7:45, we've got Josh Luedtke from Creighton Prep. At 8 o'clock, our regular Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. 8:30, we've got our guy Kevin Sjuts from 1011 News in Lincoln. Then back to preps. We've got Steve Klein from Bellevue West, and then we wrap up the show with Jim Simons from Westside.
I know that guy.
Hey, do you?
Yeah, so it's weird. Your own colleague's school. I see him every other day, but I've known Luedtke the longest.
I'll say, yeah, you and Luedtke are pretty tight, right?
Yeah. Big fan of Coach Klein. And I've known Chubick Jr. the second longest.
Yeah. He's been around the scene for a long time.
And we went to school together.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we played Central a couple weeks ago, I went and sat with him.
Yeah.
He's kind of in the lower corner at Central. I just went and sat with him because I always see him. You know, he's visible at some of the youth games and stuff. And my superintendent looked at me a little side-eyed from across the gym. He's like, "Man, you like the mayor in here?" I said, "Oh, no. Nah, man. I'm a 66er, man. I just, you know, like I said, my dad's picture was outside in the hallway, and a lot of people still around.
Oh yeah,
and I'm a Chubick Jr. guy, so I said hello. Very weird gym. Central probably needs to redo that facility.
Yeah, it's
like
strange
just the
setup.
gym. What's kind of small.
Yeah, it is. It really is for what they are and how important that program is to them.
Like the anti their weight room.
Yes, it's strange.
Which was a tremendous.
I know Chubick Senior a little bit.
He's on staff.
Yeah, so we got, when I was coaching, we got a couple kids out of South.
Did you?
Yeah. So they're like high end guys.
They have one of my favorite. Well, they have two of my favorite nondescript players to come out. Well, actually 3. So Saunders, one of their guards.
Yep.
Actually 4. So I like Griggs and Saunders as a tandem recently.
Yeah.
But you go back a little bit. I like Chief Keef, aka Khalil Walker, and Reuter Dumas.
So I think the best guy we got out of there was a kid named Tristan Mayo. He was on their 2012 runner-up team, I want to say, 2013 maybe, and he was their, I think, 6th man off the bench. Pretty good little guard. So we got and then we got a couple other guys out of there as well. But it was nice. We had a kind of nice little relationship there for a while.
My D-Night, my barber, was this close to going to South.
Yeah.
Everybody went to South out of his class with like Rodney Turnbow and or Rodney Davis and Turnbow and Terrence Badgett and Wendell Hill. This guy Jamal Rankin. That 89-90 South team was legit, but that was back, and you were seeing it for a while here, and I kind of liked it. You kind of referenced it yesterday, where schools, and 2 of our high school coaches coincidentally referenced it too, where when you played the other school, it was personal.
Oh yeah.
But outside it was fine.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, I went to middle school with these guys. Like,
but when you played, I can't remember. You like beating your buddies, right? You like beating the guys that you know more than you like beating anybody else.
Yeah. Like I could hang out with Clinton on the weekends.
Yeah.
But when we played him and he slow-blood us, I think he went like, I don't know, 40 for like 247.
Yeah.
It's just like a bludgeoning, like 7 yards here, 8
yards.
Yeah,
he's not ripping off 80 yards.
He maybe got a long one on us, but it was miserable.
Yeah, it was 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah, it's just miserable. Yeah. And baseball was like that, right? A lot of buddies, and it was just like when we're playing, it's no good.
There was a lot of that when,
like, I was talking about Monster.
Yeah,
I have no business liking those guys. not
at all.
No, not nice, mean-spirited competitors.
Yeah.
I mean, Shockey made it a mission when he took that Ralston job. Like, it was personal to beat Northwest.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. I like the fact that football, you're going to see it.
Well, you like guys that are competitive.
Yeah. Like football, you're going to see it. Why do I like Millard South? Well, they kind of leaned all the way into the bad guy.
Yeah.
Thing, right?
To the black hat.
So I'm okay with that. I am. There's probably a manner in which all schools should, you want to do things, but it's okay. Like, if you don't have to like everybody.
No. And I don't even think you have to like everybody when you are done playing. I mean, there's some guys you're just not going to like.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the same level of animosity. Like, sports hate is kind of a different thing than like actual hate, right? We had that a lot. I know it's different, but we had that a lot with Millard North, Millard West, because they share a middle school. So you would know, like, a lot of kids.
So which one is the one? Is it Kiewit?
No, the Millard North Middle is the one they share.
Oh, that's where mine went.
That's well, and that's where I went, and a bunch of my friends went to Millard South.
So
or
what is
Millard
that?
West.
That's 138th and Center?
Center, yeah, because it's the furthest south. But,
yeah, and it's miserable to go under the viaduct to get in and out of that school. I remember.
Yeah, and it's like in the neighborhood, so
Yeah.
it's a tough place to get in and out of. It's not great in terms.
I
of
didn't know you guys
access.
shared that.
Yeah, Millard North Middle, they share. At least they did. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah,
because I don't know if they may have built another middle school for Millard West at that point. But a bunch of my classmates and guys I was friends with ended up going to Millard West, and so there was kind of that natural built-in rivalry there. And then I think that's part of the reason people hate Creighton Prep so much is because a bunch of their buddies, because like Creighton Prep doesn't necessarily, you have the Catholic schools, but
Foreman said something the other day watching Lincoln Southeast, and he goes, I can't believe there's a school with 1,000 boys in the state of Nebraska. Like that, it was just kind of random because
Yeah.
I mean, Prep's been around forever, but just
yeah.
the way that he said
Just
it,
so nonchalantly.
yeah, like gave me pause.
I can't believe it. That's
Yeah.
pretty funny, actually.
Although I'm okay. I'm okay with rivalries.
There's probably 1,000 boys at like Millard North and Central at this point. I know it's not just 1,000 boys.
No,
but it's not with the enrollments those schools have.
I don't think so.
I mean, those schools
maybe.
are over 2,000.
Maybe.
So yeah, I mean, I'm just splitting down the middle here.
Yeah.
So it's got to be close. I mean, it's got to be in the neighborhood. But
who are the people in your neighborhood?
I don't know.
But no, I think that's part of the reason everybody kind of ends up growing up hating Prep because their buddies, they always have somebody that ends up going to Prep, right?
Right.
And so it's like, well, you left us. And so there's more animosity built in there. Well,
I had a couple good friends that went to Prep when they were, and for a while, Northwest was maybe the only school that would think about giving them a regular season loss.
Yeah.
Like for a stretch there, Northwest played Prep really well in football.
The guy that I
mean, they'd go on to win state, but
yeah, listen, it's little victories, right? You gotta take them where you can get them.
Baby steps.
The guy that I remember the most, and you'll know this name. I wasn't friends with him because he went to Kiewit, so I didn't know him that well.
Saltwater.
But Zach Potter was a Kiewit kid.
I'm a big Zach guy.
I really don't know him because, like I said, we went to different middle schools, but we played against each other in basketball.
That would be Potter.
He was a Kiewit kid, and so everybody's like, "Oh man, he's gonna go to Millard North," and he ends up going to Prep.
Oh, was there a sweepstakes for old ZP?
I think there was. I don't know if there was.
I was kind of out of that scene.
I don't know if there was a
that
sweepstakes, but there was definitely some animosity that he decided to go to Prep.
There's a lot of kids like that.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a lot of there's probably 6 or 7 every year. It's like they're, and we call them swing kids.
Yeah, where you're like, they might go, they might not go.
Yeah.
Can you imagine 03 Millard North? You add Zach Potter to it though?
No. I'm just like, that's
bonkers.
I've seen a lot of middle school games.
Yeah.
Where stands and stuff were full, and the particular person that coaches were watching were like, I mean, they were difference makers for your enrollment class.
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of difference makers, and especially in football, moving away from the high school scene for a minute here until we go back to preview some boys state basketball. A big day in the NFL yesterday.
Yeah. NFL
cuts, tags. Was there anybody? I mean, we talked about Russell Wilson yesterday, which still hasn't officially been cut. Not going to be cut till next week. So it's news again. Apparently,
San Diego and Miami are making room.
Chargers.
Did I say San Diego?
I will do that till the
Los
day
Angeles.
I die. It's kind of like the Lakers. Like, I'm probably never going to call it crypto.com. Like, that's
what do you still say? You don't say the Forum.
No, what was
Staples Center?
Staples, yeah. It's going to be Staples till I die.
If you said the Forum, I'd have been like,
actually, that's the first thing when we just started talking about. I was like, Great Western Forum. I was like, nope, that's been a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, Showtime has since left the building.
Well, you know what it was? It's because Space Jam, when I was a kid, that's like a key point in the movie, was where they were playing at Great Western Forum. And so that's what I knew it as from Space Jam. And, but yeah, so what did
I
thought moved the needle for you yesterday?
Seattle.
Cutting Jamal Adams was a big one.
Quandre Diggs.
Yeah.
Although I get it. Adams has to play in kind of a specific scheme.
Yeah, not a super versatile guy.
I mean, I was surprised that the Colts tagged Pittman.
Were you? That's a big number for him.
22 mil?
Yeah, that's a big number for him.
Yeah.
It is a grim wide receiver market, though, outside of the draft.
Yeah, but so here's what's going to happen, and I think I have to get used to it.
Okay.
Not to get all in the weeds of caps, but I like this kind of stuff.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
why I like Spot Track.
Yeah.
But with the cap going up, you're going to see a lot of mid-level wide receivers get paid.
Yeah, that's what we saw with.
And I'm not saying Pittman is mid. I'm just saying, like, if the middle is fat, then the top's going to be pretty thick too. So, like, I mean, what would you pay Gabriel Davis or somebody like that? He's going to get paid, kind of.
Yeah.
As a 3 or a 4 wide receiver, somebody's going to take a chance on Davis.
Yeah, I'd pay him less than what he's going to get.
Mike Evans is making 26 mil.
Yeah, is Mike Evans that guy?
He's 252, right? Or is he 256?
Wait.
No, 2 year.
Oh, yeah, 2 years, 52.
Yeah, and he got good guaranteed money too.
Yeah,
and I think he'll give you the 2 years.
Oh, sure.
And I kind of like that deal for them.
I think it's good for both guys.
I do.
It's good money for.
I do as well.
Mike Evans. It's short term because I think what you get into trouble with, especially with football players, is the longer term money. I mean, even with they think it's sort of safe with quarterbacks, but I know that Denver and Cleveland don't feel super safe right now. Trying to give out that guaranteed money. The wide receiver class in terms of free agents though is pretty grim.
Yeah,
it's basically the guys that are actually free agents. They just they tagged Pittman, so he's off the list. You got Calvin Ridley.
It's probably Ridley and everybody else, right?
And maybe Marquise Brown. Can I talk you into a Marquise Brown?
I don't know about that consistency. If I were him, I don't know. I may take less money, but you're right with the wide receiver market.
He's going to get paid more than he should because of the market.
And he could run.
Yes.
I mean, but he's basically a go route guy, overs and goes.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I think that's probably more accurate of him.
What would you have paid for a guy like Valdez-Scantling?
Oh, God, almost nothing. I mean, I don't know how you pay him. I mean, I would maybe incentive load the deal.
Well, the Chiefs won't. That's why they were like.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I don't know how you watch what you saw last year with MVS and be like, yes, I am paying that guy.
Were you surprised they tagged Snead?
Not really.
No, because they got to buy themselves some time.
Yeah, they need.
And they got to figure out the numbers before they lock him up because they can't. You can't let that guy go. So just buy yourself some time.
Yeah, you figure it out
and work on the deal.
I do wonder what that means.
The market's going to fluctuate, though.
I do wonder what that means for Christian Jones because they don't have a ton of space.
I just think he may be like.
They've got to get him done, though, right?
Yeah, he may be. Andy Reid was pretty telling in Indy.
Yeah.
We like Chris.
I would hope so.
We want Chris. We got to sit down and see what we can do. It wasn't like doom and gloom, but I didn't leave the conversation like, oh, they're gonna get that done.
It wasn't one of those where they were like, oh, we have to hope that we can get something done with the cap. And
here's the thing: if you're the Chiefs and you're really doing this dynasty thing, like at what point do you let guys that still have a lot of good in them
let them
go and try to build on the fly?
That's the thing that Belichick will never get enough credit for.
Because Jones is 29.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's old.
No, but he'll be 30 next year.
Yeah, same age as Leonard Williams.
And
who somehow will be on his third team.
I would always guess that.
Dude, Leonard Williams is a really good player.
I would always guess that he's older, though, because of the 3 teams. I always want to think he's like 32, 33.
Yeah.
But
I want to SC's finest.
If you're hitting 30, early 30s, you're a defensive tackle or defensive lineman, how good do you feel about giving that guy long-term money?
I don't know. Did you love the D-line class?
No.
In Indy?
Not really. I like especially not tackles. There's a couple rushers I like. Okay. I'm a Jared Verse guy because I like Florida State, but you might be able to get some value out of like, again, it's another Florida State guy, but Braden Fisk did really well at the combine.
Yeah.
He's not one of those.
Especially a guy with like a weird frame.
Yeah, he's got a super weird frame, but he's pretty athletic for what he is.
Yeah.
And so he's probably a 2nd or 3rd round guy, but you don't have the big like plugs in the middle. There's not really ton of those guys in the class.
And I think scheme-wise, people are trying to figure out how to work around.
Unless you like Sweat from Texas.
Like 1 and 3 techs, or some people play with two eyes, or inside guys. But I think as long as people feel like they can rush the passer, anything
They'll
you
figure
get
it
from anything you get from
run
your
support
DTs is like gravy.
Yeah, it really is.
Even though I just at some point you'd think the NFL would have to move back to running the football. Well, all these teams have like 6 DBs on the field.
You would think so, right? That's kind of why I look at this running back class, which is loaded. And you look at it and you go, somebody's going to take a chance on something. Like, you can't just have Saquon Barkley out there.
Oh, you mean UFAs?
Yeah, the free agent class.
Okay, because I thought you meant draft.
No, sorry. We were switching back and forth. Yeah, the free agent class is loaded.
Although, are we going to act like Corum didn't have as many bench reps as Alt?
Dude, I will say,
Overrated?
I'm just going to, no, I mean, it is overrated, but I'm a big bench guy, so I care about it. The bench numbers this year were weak. We didn't have anybody top 40 yet.
27 for a premier tackle?
Long arms are an issue with tackles. Tackles usually don't bench that well because their arms are so long.
Listen to what I'm telling you.
No, I know.
Okay.
Go look up what Ndamukong Suh's number is. It's low 30s.
Yeah, but there's a big difference. 6 is a big variance.
It is. But I'm just saying you're in the neighborhood.
That's low.
No, it's low for him for sure.
It's low.
It is low for him for sure.
I mean, you can squint, you can kind of tilt your head to the side, you can say it slow. 27, that's low. Now, conversely, like Corum is really, really high for a running back.
Yeah. Although running back typically are built for it a little bit better.
Yeah. I think AG was like 19.
Anthony Grant?
Amon.
Oh, Amon. I was like, okay, yeah, you're going back on me.
He may have touched 20.
I mean, I'm not trying to.
And he has ridiculously long levers,
which is really hard.
Yeah, but that dude woke up eating weights.
I will say, not to brag or anything, in my prime, I could touch 27 at 225.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and for, the guy's got 100 pounds on me.
Remember I told you they're going to grow?
Yeah.
I think Teddy got 225 for 12 or 13 the other day.
That's a good number for a high school kid.
Man, listen, you wait till you see him.
Yeah. You told me he was like beefing up.
Yeah. It's like,
I think I'm the only, maybe not the only one. I think I'm the only one who watches football that's more enamored with Anthony than I am Teddy, but that's okay.
No, I get it. I get it because there's a lot in there.
There's a ton in there.
But
his frame and athletically, I just want to see what happens. And I just want to see what happens.
And Coach Rule touched on this a little with when he sat down with JD. But there's something about the ability to lead people, and that's probably his best quality.
I wonder where he got that from.
We got to lead good people because the analogy I like to use is let's say T. Fraze, right? You have a lot of good players in that O line.
Yeah,
I mean, T. Fraze is going to look at Zach and be like, "This is my huddle." Crouch is a fantastic player. I don't know if he's going to look at Zach and be like, "Man, shut up."
Yeah, so Mike Sauter just texted us, said he could do 225 for 12. I'm calling BS.
Yeah, not a chance.
Never in his life.
His ears must have been burning this morning.
Never in his
life.
I'm not believing it.
Not a chance.
I mean, he could do maybe if he got to 225 pounds, he could do 12 push-ups.
Not a chance.
But he's not doing 225 for 12. I don't think people realize how hard that is.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, coming up next, we will talk to Bruce Chubick Jr. As we continue our Boys State basketball preview here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. Joining us now is Bruce Chubick Jr. He's the head basketball coach for the Omaha Central boys, who start their state championship journey today. Coach, how are you this morning?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I can't complain. I'm excited to get it going today.
I got in a little bit of trouble from my peers spending so much time with you pregame a couple weeks ago on the Central side. I said, man, I've known him forever, man. We're pretty close. But I survived, man. But it's always good catching up with you.
Yeah, they don't realize, that we go back about 30 years.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
Way prior to West Side and Central and South and everybody else.
Yeah, 100%. So how are your guys feeling? Could you knew this was a potential when you saw the seedings, but you're like, the irony in opening up with Omaha North. You don't have to work too hard to get your guys up for this one, do you?
No, I mean, it's a crosstown rival. Obviously, they beat us on our court third from the last game of the season. So that's kind of fresh in our minds. And, I think our kids are looking forward to getting out there and competing and, trying to put our best foot forward, I guess I would say.
Coach, you had an interesting end to your season where you played a gauntlet of teams.
Yeah.
Going Bellevue West, Omaha North, Omaha Westside, at Creighton Prep. And unfortunately for you, you lost those 4 in a row, but then you were able to get it back on track the last 2 to make your way into the state tournament. With that kind of end of the season, just how are you feeling about how your guys are playing right now?
Well, obviously there's disappointment with not winning any of the 4 games. We knew when I looked at the schedule preseason with my AD, looking at the schedule, I was like, we ain't going to take the easy way there. But, the flip side of that is you run that gauntlet, you play the schedule we played, and incidentally, I looked it up. We have our opponents have the highest winning percentage of any team at the state tournament. So we played a real hard schedule. I don't think anybody can debate that. But the thing that does is prepare you for now. I mean, you aren't going to see an easy team ever when you get to the state tournament. And so, being battle tested and kind of having to come through the fire a little bit, that ideally sets you up for a nice run at this part of the season. And I think I mentioned it the other night talking to Jimmy Allen. I think we peaked and we kind of repeat is what I likened it to with him. And I think we were playing some pretty good basketball at the Metro Holiday Tournament, but I also think we caught some people off guard at the Metro Holiday Tournament. I knew we had a quality team, but we never had most of our guys together during the summer, so nobody ever saw what we looked like at full strength except for the coaches. And so, I knew we had the potential to be good, but that's summer and fall basketball. A lot of teams don't have all their guys. So it's interesting because you get experience for your younger guys, but the team you see in the summer or the fall is not always going to be the same team that you see during the season, especially when you have multi-sport guys who are, going a lot of different directions during the summer and fall. So,
Coach, it's interesting because you mentioned multi-sport guys and, fit is really, really important. Your dad, tough, hard-minded, sit down, get after you kind of guys. You got guys like Newsom, you got Deshaun Prince, you've got DJ Sterling. Like, you've got some 2-sport football guys, the toughness in which you guys play with. You see it a lot on getting after the glass, right? You guys rebound extremely well. You play good defense. How much of that fits, like, just your personality with who you're coaching? I mean, Dale's got a little dog in him. It's this team they remind me of your personality.
Yeah, well, I think that's mostly coincidental. I think what the kids have got, inside of them is something they've had. Is we didn't coach it inside of them; they already had it there. But I dig that they kind of look at things the way that I do, and it's a game like today, we go lay it on the line.
Yeah.
It's a state tournament game. It's a special atmosphere. I don't have to tell you that. You've been there enough. But at the end of the day, it's a basketball game. So you prepare to beat your opponent. You don't worry about the big lights. You don't worry about, anything after today, because today is what's important right now. You find a way to win the game and try to move on, and both teams are going to be aiming to do that. So,
Coach, I know that we talked a little bit about kind of the emotions of playing Omaha North with the rivalry and everything there, but what about the matchup? How do you feel about the way you match up with the Vikings?
I think it's actually a really kind of an interesting matchup on both sides of the coin, because they have areas that are, obviously very hard to match up with pretty much any team, but so do we. And so, when we play, like, for instance, if we play a team with some really big players, I say, it'll be a difficult job for us to handle that, but they also have to come guard us on the other end, so it's a two-way street. And, sometimes it works out better for you, even though you have the apparent mismatch on paper against you. You still end up finding a way to, to exploit the matchups you're looking to exploit and, take advantage of those. Today's game, though, I mean, they have some very talented kids on their team. I think they have played together as well this year as I've seen them play maybe ever.
Yeah, they're connected.
Coaching in Omaha. Yeah, and, they're obviously we're going to have to be on our game to be able to send them home. So, and they're going to be trying to be on their game to send us home. So it's a two-way street, and the rivalry thing just adds a little extra to it, I would say.
It's funny, just capping this and knowing these kids for so long, most of them over half their lives. It's like I'm always trying to pick X factors as I break this thing down. And this may be the tournament of what I would call kind of some of the better kept secrets, unless you follow high school sports closely. Everybody kind of has an X factor guy, Westside with Lofton, or Gretna with Cook, Tamor with Southeast. Like, for you guys, Devin Holman is a better player than I think people realize. He's playing with a little more toughness. He's really good on the glass. He's understanding kind of the basketball part, the movement. Like, I'm pretty impressed with how he's played this year. He doesn't get a ton of pub, right? He plays with a prolific score, but you got to walk me through kind of Devin's evolution, because he's pretty tough.
Yeah, he's a very good player. He's got a great and interesting skill set. Most big guys can't handle the ball, can't pass the ball. Devin can do both, and obviously can step out and shoot too. A lot of it has just been, I guess, kind of helping him realize who he is. Like, I think sometimes the guy that he sees in the mirror isn't the guy that we all see. So we kind of have to remind him, like, hey man, you got a lot more in you than what you're coming at it with right now. Let's go. Let's kick it into high gear. You're in second. Let's get up to fourth and fifth right now. And, sometimes it's just him embracing that. I think he's more of a big time player than he realizes sometimes. And I think you've seen him really playing well here down the stretch. And I love that, because he's a senior, he's a basketball guy. He's kind of embracing the moment and raising his level to try to, put us in the best position to win games. And I think he's done that. I thought he played a really good game against Pius. Had a slow start.
Yeah, because Anderson's a handful.
Yeah, he is. I mean, and I thought our kids, we had a game plan coming into the game. I thought they executed it just about as well as we could have hoped. So, that's and obviously that's going to be the goal today. We have a game plan going into today. We're going to try to execute it to the best of our ability again. One thing I did want to say, you forgot two guys, DB.
What's that?
Ike Ackerman.
Oh, yeah.
Get a lot of pub for being an athlete. He's a two-time AAU national shot put.
Yeah, he is a player. Hey, listen, you talk about a thorn in the side. He killed us, Westside, in the first half, keeping you guys in it. Yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah. And Andrew Brown was the state 300 intermediate hurdle champion 2 years ago, and hopefully again this year. So, and a football guy.
Yeah, the human pogo stick.
Yeah, right, for sure.
That's Bruce
Chubick you're the man,
Jr.,
Coach. I appreciate you.
The head coach at Omaha Central. Coach, we appreciate your time. Good luck today.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
That's Coach Bruce Chubick from Omaha Central.
They do got some athletes, man.
They got
Ackerman's a stud.
Yeah, I was saying you kind of lit up when he brought that.
Because I like watching him play.
Yeah, for sure.
I did light up. I like him.
Coming up next, we've got Josh Luedtke from Creighton Prep as we continue boys basketball state previews here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are efforting Coach Josh Luedtke of Creighton Prep as.
Oh, come on, Coach.
I mean, that's your boy. You gotta get your boy here.
Well, he's probably doing something with admissions or something. Who knows?
I mean, you know, I guess some people work for a living at 7:45 in the morning, but
I know it's unfortunate.
Who knows? We're just here
He's probably putting them through a walkthrough.
We're just. I mean, they might need it. They might need it. It's a tough. I mean, they got the toughest matchup today.
You think?
I mean, Bellevue West hasn't lost a game in a minute.
Yeah, I got to look back. It's been a while.
It was Miller North. It's the only loss on the
couple
season.
Of these teams that haven't lost for a while.
It's been. Let's see how long it's been.
One day since you look at me. What
is that? Man, that's
Chicken in China, the Chinese.
That's an old school one right there.
I don't even know the name of that song.
I believe it is called 1 Week.
1 week. Shane, do we have Coach Luedtke?
Not yet. Working on it.
Okay, we'll get there. But Bellevue West, they have not lost. They're only lost the season to Miller North. They have not lost since when was that? January? We're looking up. We'll find it here at some point. Maybe I don't know.
I don't even recognize
what we're doing here.
Yeah,
but that was. I mean, do you like Creighton Prep to match up with them here?
So, and I'm going to ask Coach Luedtke. There's two things that I think Prep can do. and it depends on what he's doing with his bigs.
Okay.
If he's playing both, which you never know. I think there's some things that they can do with Garcia. To have him come out and guard, but he's got to really protect his guards.
Yeah, so that was the third game of the season back on December 7th. That's the last time that Bellevue West has lost a basketball game. So it's been a minute.
So maybe they're bored.
They are, maybe, or maybe they're just really good. It's hard to tell.
Yeah. Coach Klein's a great dude, too. He'll have those guys loosey-goosey because that's I think we got
him.
Coach is here.
Joining us now.
Are you producing?
Sometimes.
You guys going? Joining us now is Coach Josh Luedtke from Creighton Prep. Coach, how are you this morning? Coach, we have you?
Shane, did you punch him up?
Yeah, he's there.
Coach Luedtke, you with us?
Let's hang up and try again, Shano.
Good job. Shane is not producing.
We're having a good time this morning. It's Prep is interesting, right? Because they've obviously, they've taken some losses over the course of the season.
Talk about playing a tough schedule.
Yeah, and they have played Bellevue West. It was a 12-point game about a month and a half ago. If you're in Prep's shoes, do you like having already seen that team as opposed to seeing it for the first time here in state?
Yes, because he's a really good coach, so he's good with if he can see multiple
scouting,
times, and he can usually get his guys going.
Okay,
he whipped Westside's butt after we beat him by 40.
We can try it again
in the season.
All right, let's try it again. We are hopefully have Coach Josh Luedtke from Creighton Prep here. Coach, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning.
Oh man, why Denny Downer, man? Good morning. I haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks.
I'm good. I'm just just embracing the moment,
Are you handling some admissions or what, man? Smile.
No, I'm just sitting on the couch watching my dogs run around and see what happens.
Did you give yourself the day off?
No. With the 1:30 game, I'm gonna head to work about 9. So no, I've been up for a while, trying to put something together for today and see what happens.
Fudge, it isn't Nebraska the good life. It's Omaha CP the good life. My man, I'll just head in it.
That is true. I will not lie about that.
I'll just head in that night. We were talking about matchups, and I actually, it's just not because I'm talking to you, but I actually like you if you've seen a team once or twice, just because I think you'll try to figure out ways to give your team the best advantage to win, right? And it's not that I know that personally after you broke my heart at State a couple of years ago, but nothing like a 40-point turnaround. But that's not
who's counting?
Who's counting?
Well,
go ahead.
It just once the hardest part is figuring out your team. Like for us this year, it's been kind of an up and down because we've had such high expectations, and there's been some games where you just kind of like, God, did we really play like that? And the answer was yes. And we've had a good week of practice, and the guys seem locked in and ready to go. So we're excited for the chance to play Bell West and see what happens today.
Now, I think some people may listen to you and think that's just Josh, kind of tongue in cheek. But even within a game, right? We were up on you guys 17. It looked awful, right? You guys had 9 points halfway through the second quarter. Then you take the lead late after erupting in a third quarter. How do you explain your team's peaks and valleys and get that to kind of regulate this late in the season?
Well, that game, and I know, I'm not making excuses, and I never will. You know me, Damon, but we have not had one of our starters since the Gretna game. In that game, I think he had 6 or 7 threes. The night we played you guys over at Westside, it was our big freshman retreat, which is a huge deal. So we were down 1 there, and then we were missing another guy that night as well. And what was great about that night is the kids who played stepped up and they just competed, and we got down, but those kids just never gave up hope and just kept fighting and fighting. And that's what we tried to breed into our teams with all of our guys is like, there's going to be peaks and valleys in every game. And you yourself as a team may go on a run, but how do you handle that? Because you could go on a 10-0 run to start the game, but there's still 30 minutes left in the game. I mean, so you gotta have the happy medium and that balance, and you got to be able to keep your composure. And this team is a team that, I mean, I think anybody knows it is capable of winning 3 straight games, and it's capable of, being a one and done. But I think our seniors have stepped up really well. Dylan Clausen, Carson Jones, Emmett Knight's been a tremendous leader. Marquise Tolliver has done a great job this year. And I think they're hungry, and I think they know what it means to be down there at state. They haven't actually been there, but I think they realize the importance of, the program being down there. So we just really want to go down there and we want to compete for 32 minutes. And, whether it's a good stretch of 4 minutes or a bad stretch of 4, we got to move on, because you always got to be thinking next play. You can't let one play become 2 or become 3. And, everybody knows down at the state tournament it gets so loud that a lot of what happens in that game is going to be based on what our players are comfortable with and how they react. I think of the times that I've been there, and man, it gets so loud. Sometimes guys can't even hear what we're calling in. They just have to trust it, and they got to get back to the basics. And if we do our basics well and we compete, hopefully that'll give us a chance with 4 minutes to go to have a chance to win the game.
I've talked to a lot of the coaches so far that are very familiar with their kids that have crossover during summer basketball. You mentioned Marquise Tolliver, obviously familiar with Eldon Turner and Jaden Jackson and Mick Morrison, those guys, and Emmett Knight's got experience playing against those guys in the summer. How much of that do you think is a benefit in games like this, that the fear factor is kind of at a minimum because of familiarity? Like, Marquise isn't going to back down at all, right? And there has to be some sort of comfort in that because there's familiarity.
Yeah, it definitely helps when these guys play summer ball together and get to know one another. And I think it really comes down to a pride thing. Like, they don't want to lose to their buddies, but sometimes with that, it gets into
personal.
It becomes me against you game, and we can't have that. We don't have anybody that's going to just take over a game and be 1-on-5 or 1-on-2. We've got to play the way we play and get everybody involved, move the ball, take care of the ball, and look for the best shot. And then we all got to defend and rebound. So, it's nice that there's that familiarity, and, I don't think anyone's in awe of what, their friends have done or how they've played against them in the past. It's just a matter of, can we lock in and can we stay focused on what the task is for the next 32 minutes? And you know how it is. You get to the state tournament day one, anything can happen, and that can be a good thing and bad thing. And both of us, we've been on both sides of both of those. I've had teams that I thought had a chance to win it all, and we're packing it up after day one. And I've had teams that, had to say a Hail Mary and a few other things before the game, and we're in the semifinals. So, it's the beauty of sports. It's the beauty of basketball. It's tournament play. Anything can happen. Somebody gets on a run. Somebody gets hot. Team gets momentum. You just don't know what's going to happen. And this is a great field. You look at, you got, Gretna playing Millard North and Southeast and West Side, Central and North, us and Bellevue West. That's a pretty darn good field with, several teams who are really good looking from the outside in. So, it's, I think the state's going to have a fun tournament this week. And, obviously I think the favorites, everyone would love to see the Bellevue West Millard North matchup it might be the 10th, 12th time in a row. But I'm sure there's a few people hoping their teams can find a way to get a win today.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Good luck today. And, I'm one of those people rooting for the Millard North matchup, but that's just because I'm a Millard North guy. So you guys can make it through the other side of the bracket. I'm okay with that.
I'm probably sure there's only about 13,000 people rooting for us today. Those are our long.
Coach, good luck. We appreciate your time.
Always a joy, man. Best wishes to you.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you.
That's Coach Josh Luedtke of Creighton Prep. Listen, if he wants to take out Bellevue West for me, I'm not going to be mad about it.
Carter Brown,
not going to be mad
Marquise
about it.
Tolliver, that backcourt's got to be big today.
Coming up next, we've got Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Here is Husker 24/7 senior writer, Brian Christopherson.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a circus act.
Brian Christopherson.
Well, I mean, that's pretty interesting.
Brian Christopherson.
I kind of enjoy that.
Here is Brian Christopherson.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And we are joined now by our friend Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. BC, how are you this morning?
I can't complain at all. How are you guys?
Good, BC. Are you on the move this morning?
On the move. That's you know me. I did my 700 push-ups, and now I'm driving to Omaha, so that had to get up early.
700 before you left this morning. I would have to do 1070 times during the course of the day to pull that off, BC.
That was also a complete lie.
Kind of like Sauter telling us he could do 225 for 12.
Yeah. If I tried to do like one of those diamond push-ups our high school coaches used to have us do, it would just be I would collapse.
Brian Christopherson out on Coach Solich. Yeah, he was the king of the diamonds. I don't even know if he knows what I don't even know if he knows what a regular push-up is. Like he would look at you and say, "That's too easy. Get those. I need those pointy fingers to touch. Get those thumbs in line."
Get those
hands
hands
together.
together.
You want us to make a diamond? These suck.
That's why he's in the College Football Hall of Fame now.
Yeah,
that's what gets you there, right?
It is. Are you working in Omaha this morning? You covering anything? What do you got going?
I'm just going with my wife works in Omaha, and I'm visiting family. But I will be working from Omaha, but not covering anything. If that explains it.
So let me ask you something, because I asked this. It just got started early last week with the signing day schedules and stuff, and I kind of looked at Ravi and laughed, but he may end up being right. He's a June-February guy, and I was thinking, gosh, I kind of like December. Maybe you get away from February. Maybe, guys will be looking to they'll be unsettled in June. He may end up being right, though. When you listen to coaches, we knew we had to lighten up December.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is in the best interest of everybody?
Ravi might be right.
That's
February
unfortunate.
Is what he said.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. I hated saying it, too.
Yeah. I feel like we all need showers now, don't we?
That's uncalled for, guys. That's uncalled for.
Hey, I'm right here.
Just take the compliment. Really. Yeah,
it's a backhanded one to be sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it feels like now, is there some use for the little one? It was not a little one, but the one that will be at the front of December. Yeah, maybe, because there are going to be those recruits who, want to take their fall officials and not make. Sign before that, and I completely get that. And so you'd like them to possibly be able to just end it without having people bugging them through December and January still. So I wonder if the having three of them is okay. Just because there's three of them doesn't mean every one of them has to be a monster stressful situation. But I do like the June edition. The more I've thought about it, I can definitely say I like that one, just because it feels like the calendar's been turned up enough where we have enough guys already sitting in the boat then who know exactly what they want to do. Let them have it, and sign and get it out of the way. I do think it'll be interesting, though, how certain programs play it, because some will want to just load up and have the majority of it done, frankly, by June.
Yeah. I see some Mac Brown Texas tendencies with June.
Yeah, that's what I see too, and that's a great name drop there on who you would think of with that. But then there's going to be, Matt Rule talks about this all the time. These guys are developing all at different points. You're getting that kid who adds 25 pounds of muscle or something his senior year, and his film just pops out at you. And these guys are I think going to be the diamonds in the rough that certain programs who have the patience to leave some spots open could end up getting because everybody else is going to overplay their hand early, if you know what I mean. So that'll be an interesting sort of strategy to it, is you still got to keep in mind those we used to call them late bloomers. I don't even know if that's proper. A lot of kids just get really good their senior year, and you see what they're all about and who's really got it. So I think you have to be careful as you're doing this to not just leave yourself without any room.
We're talking with Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. Yeah, BC, I kind of tend to agree with you and DB, and see how I said that without making any derisive comments about either of you. But
model behavior. Props to you, Ravi.
But I tend to agree that you might see some of these blue bloods basically fill their class up by June. But what doesn't that create an opportunity for kind of that second tier of teams in recruiting to maybe pick up a bunch of guys that maybe they're not even late bloomers, maybe they're just not ready to make their decision yet before their high school season? Because we see a lot of high-end guys that aren't ready even in that time frame. Do you think there might be an opportunity for certain teams to elevate their recruiting because the blue bloods want to get their class done early?
Yeah, definitely. I do think that, and I also think that's why, not to put an exact number on it, but maybe you leave like half your class open still, or you have half signed and you have a few that you feel really good about, but then there's room for like 4 or 5 guys who you're just like, we can get these guys based off senior film and what they do here in the fall and also into January and February. So I think there are programs that will take advantage of it. I also think there are prospects who can take advantage of it, because I've seen some guys, even how it's been set up, who, if they didn't sign on early signing day, maybe they weren't the biggest fish in the pond through most of their recruiting cycle, but you'd get to January and you'd start to hear a lot of people talk about them like they were Jim Brown, because there were only so many guys available. So that guy would look pretty good sometimes, because we're talking about like a very smaller pond of prospects still open till February. So I think it can work both ways. I don't know. They're going to have to do some trial runs, and I don't know if they won't ever find something that makes everybody happy. You know that. So you just gotta do the best you can with it. But I do like the June edition. I guess that's where I can sit right now.
It's kind of like the NFL draft quarterback process, right? Every year you kind of talk yourself into guys, even though the class might not be that good. That's kind of what you're talking about with that February period, right? Where it's like, well, these are the guys that are out there. We're going to talk ourselves into some guys.
That would be the one you could convince me to move.
The February one?
Yeah. I'm surprised you guys both like February, June.
The problem with February, in my opinion, and BC, you can tell me if you agree or if it doesn't hurt you too much.
He's in his feels right now. Can you tell, BC?
Well, the problem with leaving December and not February is leaving December doesn't fix any of the issues in terms of having that be too heavy.
Unless you move it up a week before playoffs start.
That still doesn't help anything.
So how do you know?
Because you still have a crazy amount of stuff going on.
No, you have the dead period. You give it 3 weeks. It can work.
I'm not saying it can't work. I don't know that it helps that much.
Okay.
Moving it up a week, I don't think helps that much.
I think it does help a little bit. I don't know. It'd be hard to say until we haven't covered a team here that's been playing in a bowl game with it. So that's
yeah. How would we know?
That's true. Our Decembers are perfectly fine.
Yeah. But I do think moving it up a little bit in December is beneficial. I know some guys like James Franklin think that, who kind of went through it this last year. The February one, it's okay to just still sit there, because even this last one, it was there was a little bit of news attached to it around here. Nebraska picked up a few guys, but it also wasn't like, I think, a real stressful situation for the Husker coaching staff. They were honestly recruiting for 25 and 26 most of January. So I don't think it was the worst setup with still having that February thing just as okay, here's your last chance for the guys who haven't signed yet. But I don't know. You can make points for all of them, but I do like the June ad.
Hey, so how about this, though? If we keep it local and relative to playing to your strengths, Coach Lulla said to me on a couple of different occasions, BC, that what happened with the Rezac situation will never happen to him again. It was a year one thing because he's relying on other lists and other things. He said going forward, he will have had sophomore, freshman, junior camps where guys won't pop up, as he likes to say, on his radar. How much of what, if he's, and we take him at his word because he's going to be having these Matt Rule camps, like if he's right and he's getting a chance to evaluate these guys over consecutive years, will we not have to worry about some of the problems that we're just openly talking about right now in terms of how guys want to recruit?
Yeah, I think he and his staff are going to have a really good read on guys like that, those prospects, because they're going to have – he wants to get those guys into their camp by, like, 7th and 8th graders, you know, like where you know them since they've been, like, 13, 14 years old, and you've built this relationship, and they come to your Husker camp every year, and you know their family a little bit and stuff like that. I think that's what he pictures with these summer camps at Nebraska and June being.
Right. The Deshaun Princes, the Caprice Keiths.
Yeah.
Hopefully they get a Marion Jackson back a couple times. Yeah, I mean, guys like that, right?
So when he's telling you that, he's telling you more about than just like seeing them one summer at one camp or having to stopwatch in front of them one time. He's thinking about, like, I'm going to see these guys for 3 or 4 years. I'm going to have a real relationship with them. So, you know, a little bit like you do with your own players, where you get to know a little bit of what's around them and what their background is and all that stuff. That's what can happen if you can actually get those guys to really appreciate your camp, to make them believe, the prospect believe, hey, they actually are paying attention to me. Like Donovan Jones, you know, last year shows up to that summer camp in Nebraska, and I remember Donovan telling me, like, okay, I was thinking Wyoming coaches were going to be there, and I was really trying to get that offer, and I didn't expect, you know, beyond that at that point. He goes in front of the Nebraska coaches, and suddenly he's a big story around here within the next week, because they actually pay attention to, like, how a guy moves and how, you know, what his traits are at that thing. And he changed the whole course of his recruitment by going to that camp. That's a local story from Omaha, you know, that shows that that's a real thing. There were all sorts of those last June. And so if you make prospects believe this is not just one of those camps where the 25th guy on staff, and no insult to the 25th guy on staff, but like where I'm not getting in front of the head coaches, but it's just these guys who are kind of in the background are the ones looking at me. Nebraska, I think, did a good job their first time with this staff of showing those prospects. That's not what this camp is. They get in front of the actual coaches, and we want you to keep coming back as you grow up and grow as a player, and we'll see what you're about. And then to your question and the example is that for 3 or 4 years, if they offer or don't offer, at least it's going to be based off what they feel is a very, very fair evaluation after a lot of time with the kid.
And he said, you know, because I think one of the things that was bugging him is he wanted to be able to, this is just the confidence in him, but it makes sense when I'll tell you this, he wants to be able to determine projection as well. Like, it happens as much as with projection and being accurate as much as it is building relationships. Okay, how much more room for growth is there? How develop, you know, like he said, it just takes the guesswork out of it.
Yep. And they very much trust their evaluations. I remember when he said about recruiting in Texas too on early signing day, he said a lot of schools are just quote unquote airport recruit Texas. You know, they'll go to DFW and then drive in a 40-mile radius around there. And that's what you get out of their Texas recruiting. He wants his staff within Texas too to be that one that sets out and finds those places not everyone has their eyes on, and actually give those kids a real look where, you know, they're in front of like Evan Cooper directly, and he actually is seeing them with his own eyes. And, you know, that's kind of how they got Braylon Prude, you know, the recruit they really like in this last class. And, you know, I think they think Roger Gradney could be a guy like that too. We 24/7 Sports was big on Gradney as well, but
I am as well.
Nebraska was bigger on him than a lot of other programs, and that's because they saw him up close and they did their research, which was like Rule's talking to you about. You know, you do the due diligence, and you get rewarded still. And it's funny, like he made a joke. He was joking, like everybody's really proud of what Huddle's done around here and stuff like that. But actually, the Huddle world and some of that stuff, I think he would tell you, actually hurts Nebraska a little bit, because he thinks it helps. You know, it helps some people who actually don't want to just do the dirty work.
It can let you be lazy. Yeah. It can let you be lazy.
A little bit of that. So, that's what they're trying to do. They're still trying to find ways you can outwork them, even in our modern system where it's sometimes put in your lap.
And full disclosure, you know why I like Gradney? I don't know, excuse me, why you like Gradney, and I'm curious to get your thoughts. But I totally trust him, right, Coach Rule. So when he says to me, and this is unsolicited, right? He's talking about like what it takes to play at a high level here, and no fear of failure, not no fear of failure. That's another deal. No, not checking the rearview mirror, not being afraid of outcomes. Just like he was talking about the other day on the podcast. He said Gradney's the type, he said this specifically. He's like, DB, like this guy loves competing. You take a look at where he's come from, what he's dealing with. Like football matters to him. Those are the guys that I want in the program. It had very little to do with like physical attributes. It was just good old fashioned want to and trust. It's amazing how much he gravitates towards those attributes, because it goes back to what you said earlier. They trust their eval and development. They want to be able to peg the intangibles so they can offset what's ailed Nebraska these last handful of years and being afraid to not succeed.
Yeah. You got to find those guys as the differentiator who truly love football, not that are just really good at football at the high school level and they like it. It's okay. There are those type of guys, and that's not even the worst trait to have as a person. It just means they're probably not going to be great at the college level. So you got to find those guys who really want to, I want to learn how I can be the absolute best at my position. How does this other position affect what I do? They're looking for all the tells on the other side of the ball. Those type of guys, if you can pick up on it when they're recruits, that they're wired like that, then you got something. And that's obviously what they think they have with Gradney and some of those guys. I think they really feel that with a lot of their last class, which is why
100%.
they're so happy about it.
100%.
No matter what the rankings say, which are good, but even so, they would be fine with it.
We're talking with Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, wanted to check in and see if I assume you were able to see the interview that Coach Rule did yesterday. Any takeaways from that, or kind of mostly? I kind of think sometimes when he does these national shows, he kind of goes into stump speech mode, like a politician, where it's like, hey, let's just play the hits. Let's kind of get out there and say that. Do you think he said anything interesting yesterday?
I didn't have a main takeaway from it yesterday. I kind of breezed through it.
Me too.
I just like the fact that they're very much about whatever's right in front of you today, and like how today can help you get those 3 or 4 points. And sort of the way it's been set up, even with those videos where it's like you're chasing 3 or you're chasing those extra points that get you over the top, is it makes the task at hand not seem like you're climbing a mountain, really. It's just like you have a team that you believe is almost there, that I think he believes is almost there, and you're instilling that mindset, like, you put in the work now, we're going to be there, and we're going to stop being that team that looks at it like, oh, this happened in 2021, or what happened in 2019. And I think he understands well what's happened here. Is last year for him was only year one of those like sort of close losses. So it's like, to him, just a natural building process. Like, he's been there before. It's like you get scuffed up a little bit the first season, but you learn from it. You're building it the way you want to, and then you get better in year 2. He also knows that Nebraska fans are carrying a lot of baggage with them, because that's like 5 or 6 years of seeing that sort of stuff. And so they just put it all in the pot together, right? So I think he knows what the outlook is, or how people view that outside. But inside the walls, he's like, guys, what we're doing, how we worked last year, and sort of the culture we set, and you understand now what the standard I have for you and what we expect, and now you realize you can push yourself even further than that. And I just like the fact that he's keeping it, very much on the now, with all those guys. And I think that's the way you have to do it in winter conditioning, but basically any time of the year. That's the way to have success.
BC, let me ask you something. It's based on what Ravi just said, listening to the question about the stump speech. And Coach Rule is such a good orator that I think it's just part of who he is. Could you foresee a time where he's just like, you know what? Enough talking. Let's go to work, where he kind of shuts down the sit downs? Or do you just think it's part of who he is with his DNA?
That's a good question. I guess you never say never. I think it's kind of part of who he is with his DNA, but your question makes me think you could see it another way, but maybe I'm wrong.
It's based on the way that Ravi worded it that got me thinking, right? I wonder, because he's always reflecting, right? What could I do better? What could I do different? How can I and I could see him maybe getting up and saying, you know what? I've talked too much. I think I'm going to shut it down for a while. Like I don't know anything. I can just see that happening if he gets the sense that that's what people feel when he sits down to talk.
I guess that's possible. I hope he doesn't do that because I like hearing him talk.
Oh, he's amazing.
Well, BC, I wonder too. Also, not sorry to cut you off there, but like, I think he maybe thinks that or understands that, hey, this is part of the job, right? Promoting Nebraska is part of the job.
Yeah.
So I don't know that. I think he would have to get to a point, and I don't know. I haven't talked to him. I think he would have to get to a point where he thinks Nebraska promotes itself before he stops sitting
BC,
down.
So you know what the next phase could be, BC, which may be more plausible? Maybe Nebraska starts to win close games and kind of stops being afraid, where it will be the next evolution of what he wants to talk about. Because right now, the getting over the hump thing is I think, his primary focus.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a thing.
That's probably most likely. And I think if Nebraska can get where it's big time again, he's got a natural gift for conversation where he can be one of the main voices in college football. I really think he can be. Like, if it will take Nebraska like being an elite team, like, and being like a college football playoff team at some point, but he's got a way of explaining his thoughts on things and like maybe the direction certain things should go, that I think he could actually be quite influential.
That is that's super accurate. He is way smart with the state of the game. That's a great call, BC.
Yeah. He could definitely be that, but I just hope he doesn't shut it down anytime soon because he's a good quote. That's for sure.
That's Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 BC. We appreciate your time. We'll catch up with you again next week.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Coming up next, we've got Kevin Sjuts, sports director of 1011 News in Lincoln, right here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And we're brought to you by our friends at Omaha Supernovas. They are back in town on March 14th. That's a week from tomorrow. So make sure you get to supernovas.com to get your tickets. Check out the schedule. You can shop on there as well. Get some Supernovas merch. Do they have any of those cool? You've been tossing around that ball for a little bit. I wonder if they have any of those on the website. You can go check out, see what they've
for a child,
got.
These are addicting.
Or for DB.
Same thing.
Well, I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt.
My attention is very much split with this little thing.
They're fun to toss around, though.
It's losing some air, so my grip is a little better. So I can give you this. I can give you the okay.
You can actually give me the circle change this time instead of just pretending.
I could give you the knuckle. I
go knuckle curve.
I give you the two-seamer. I go across the four-seamer.
But you can pick up some merch over at supernovas.com. Or you could actually use it for a little volleyball. And you can catch a little volleyball action March 14th. Here at the CHI Health Center, 7 p.m. and you can get supernovas.com for tickets. Joining us now on the phone line is Kevin Sjuts, Sports Director, 1011 News in Lincoln. Kevin, how are you this morning?
Good morning. Happy Boys State basketball opening day.
Yeah. And I love talking to a Lincoln guy as I get ready to as my fear factor is at a high level, knowing Southeast has had Westside's number the last couple of times out. Are you ready to go today? I mean, 9 o'clock comes early. You'll be all over the place, I'm sure, man. Is this a busy day, an exciting day? You just finished the ladies. Like, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Yes, it is a busy day and a fun day, and I can't wait to watch these games starting here shortly. But I made a veteran move, and you learn some things after you do this year after year, because the turnaround from the girls' tournament to the boys, it'll get you. I took Monday. There's no joke about that, because those are some long days.
Yeah.
Veteran play was I took Monday off of work. I kind of unplugged, hung out with the family, and I just went to bed when my body said go to bed.
Yeah.
Didn't even make it to the 10 o'clock news. I got over 8 hours of sleep, and the next morning woke up without an alarm. I told my wife, I feel like $1 million. It was I got 8 hours.
It's amazing what one good night of sleep will do for you.
I'm surprised you weren't more tired. That's pretty cool when you time it right to be recharged as opposed to, ooh, how about a little more?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I feel like it kind of feels like a Monday, but I know it's not a Monday because it is. When they expanded the tournament from 3 days to 4 days, I mean, 3 days, that is just drinking out of a fire hose. There's just so many games. And plus, you're running across town because that's when the games are played at 4 different sites. They incorporated the high schools.
Yep.
But now it's just back and forth between PBA and Devaney. But the extra day, that will wear you down. Sometimes by Saturday, you're like, oh, my goodness. That alarm hits Saturday morning, and it's rough.
We're talking with Kevin Sjuts, 1011 News in Lincoln. I know that you're a professional. You're a journalist. There's a little bit of you that's rooting for Lincoln Southeast, right? You're a little bit of you rooting for the Lincoln team?
Of all the Lincoln teams in the Class A field, Southeast never has won a title. They've just got that feel about them that, okay, yeah, I'd love to see them win. Sorry, DB, but they're
it's okay.
They're representing the entire capital city, and Lincoln has had a couple of really good years of boys basketball. But they've just really failed to break through at the state tournament. And this Southeast team, they're scrappy. They're very well coached. I'll give Joey a lot of credit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fun team to watch, and they have some pieces and some guys that, they played varsity for 3 years. Tay Moore is a 1,000-point scorer. He runs the offense for them. He's a great point guard. And, Hilkeman is tried and true, and he can come up in the clutch, as we saw in the district final. And then Mikey Nagoy, he's a nice little piece that they have as well. So this Southeast team, I'm looking forward to this. Plus, it's the primetime game. And I think, being a guy that lives in Lincoln, I love it when there is a team from the capital city that is on the court in primetime at Pinnacle Bank Arena.
Yeah, great. I love the whole setup. I've watched Tay Moore since he's been in middle school. Jake Hilkeman, younger than that. Coach Warning, he said something very interesting yesterday that I think you kind of alluded to. He said last year we were just kind of happy to be here. This year, a little bit different. So I like his ability to kind of just take some self-inventory. I asked him kind of what he would do different, and he said, listen, we got experience. We got the hack tournament, because I was just talking about preparation with having a week off with as hard as they play. But he's kind of approaching this time as it's a little more business for him. It's this, there's no, hey, just happy to be here. Like they expect to do some damage.
And what's fascinating is last year, the way that they played, you would have thought it's almost opposite because they had Bangot Dak last year, a guy that could block shots, affect games defensively, and play above the rim. This year, they don't have that piece. And you would have thought that Dak was the difference maker, but in fact, it's just the extra year, the experience of the whole regular season last year, and then also now the experience at state. So I totally know what Joey is talking about. Man, I'm just excited for them to get on the court because it is a long layoff from those district finals. I mean, it's over a week, and you go
it's a week and a half,
year.
10 days.
14 weeks and you're playing pretty much every week. The longest break you have is 5 days for the moratorium. And now before the biggest part of the season, you're off for what was it, 10 days?
Yeah, it's a week and a half, 10 days, yeah.
Jeez.
It's a long time.
Kevin, I'm in the smaller classes. I often say the lesser classes, but smaller classes. I don't want to make any mistakes here and anger our friends out in central and western Nebraska.
Kevin, as you know, if you want to make people mad, be disrespectful about high school.
Yeah, don't say
you
lower
can say what
classes.
you want about Nebraska, Creighton,
classes. Yes,
Wesleyan, whatever. You misrepresent high school. Like
people will get mad in
bing,
a
bing,
hurry.
bing, 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 bing.
Yes, I've made the mistake of saying lower classes before. It is just lower enrollment, the smaller classes. Kevin, what are some of the other in some of those smaller classes? What are some of the other games you're looking forward to there?
Well, of course, Carter Nelson's going to be playing tomorrow.
I keep hearing that.
Football signing. I mean, like, let's go watch him on the basketball court because he's a freak athlete. So I think Carter's going to draw a lot of eyes. You know, we were just talking about Lincoln Southeast. This is an opportunity to say Lincoln Lutheran is in the tournament for just the second time in school history. And they have some really nice pieces. They have a strong junior class. And Jacob Dutzman, he's one of the better juniors in the state. They're a fun team. They are so battle tested. They played a very aggressive schedule. If you look at their January, you're like, how in the world did this team survive? Because they were playing Wahoo. They played Parkview Christian. They played Omaha Concordia. It was Norris, and they did it all in like a 4-week stretch, but they survived it. And I think that really set them up nicely as they went into district play. They played probably the most challenging sub-district in C2, and they ended up winning it. So they have a lot of momentum right now.
How do you pick up? How'd you cap C1? Which, and I know I say this, it seems like for about 13 years in a row, but it appears to be the most competitive again.
Yeah, right. I mean, we're not surprised.
What is it about that class? Do you like? Maybe you can get underneath that.
I don't know. Davey, I don't know. Is it about like the enrollment piece that all these teams are pretty level in terms of the talent pool they have to choose from? Or is it because all their youth programs are so strong? They all play together.
It's weird.
They were, 2 years old. But, when you're looking at C1, can you pick against Jimmy Weeks? They're undefeated. Can you pick against Omaha Concordia? They are really good, and they're the number 1 seed. You can't go against Ashland Greenwood. They're the defending champs. And, oh, by the way, Wahoo
may have the best player.
Oh, my goodness. Like, if you don't know where to go or what to do with state and you're listening to this right now, just find the C1 bracket, put your butt in a seat at the Devaney Center, and watch them all day long tomorrow.
Kevin, before we let you go here, I wanted to touch on the fact that Nebraska Wesleyan, their men's basketball team, is still playing. They're in the Sweet 16 of the D3 tournament on their way to try and compete for a national championship. What should people know about that here in the last 30 seconds?
Ravi, so glad you brought them up. This is a team, Nebraska Wesleyan. They're not foreign to playing in the postseason. Dale Wellman is an amazing coach, and he pivoted from going high fly, score a lot of points, let's play defense this year, and their point guard, Lincoln's grad, Carter Glenn, runs the show. Impressive player. Loved watching Nebraska Wesleyan basketball.
Kevin, great stuff as always. I love some small college basketball as well. I'm glad you are covering them. We will talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you, boys.
Shout out Nate Sheminitz, one of the great Prairie Wolves from Omaha Creighton Prep.
That's
had a
right.
Heck of a storied career at Wesleyan a few years ago.
We've got more Hurrdat Sports coming up next.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And we are joined now by Bellevue West head boys basketball coach Steve Klein. Coach, how are you this morning?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good, Coach. Just the way you drew it up. When I'm not running to shake your hands or give hugs on a basketball sideline or a football sideline, we'll just be doing radio interviews. How about that?
You know, I've been thinking about this all morning. I've been listening to the guys here and there. This is going to be really hard for me because, Robbie, you're a Millard North grad.
Yep.
And then DB, you're the dad of a player that plays for Westside. This is going to be a challenge for me.
If there's one thing you know about me, Coach K, is I always tell this to people. They don't believe me. Number one, I don't like my son. And number two, like I'm pretty objective, right? Like Ravi said something earlier and I forgot all about it. He just kind of in passing, he goes, you know, Bellevue West hasn't lost in a long time. And so we just wanted to look up the date. It was in December
7th.
And I'm like,
Coach, do you remember who that loss was to? I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's only one.
He's throwing daggers already. I haven't even been on.
I told this. So, you know, unfortunately, Sutter and I talk for a lot. And I said, you know, we were looking at, so we're just talking about hoops. This is like about 3 weeks ago. And we were talking about who's kind of peaking and who's playing well. And And then it was last couple weeks, and he's like, well, Bellevue West has had some close games. And I go, if I'm Bellevue West, I'm guarding against being bored. And I didn't mean that as like a slight to anybody else, but the bar is really, really high. The expectation is to be there at the end. How'd you keep the standard game in, game out when it's easy for youngins to want to fast forward to the end?
Sure. I mean, it's difficult, but it's essentially you're focusing on the process of day by day. And when you come to practice every day, you have to focus on getting better. Our motto this year was be 5% better. And so that's something that really, really kind of hit home with me coming into the season, that, we have to continue to focus on getting better every day. And yeah, we've had some close games, and let's be honest, there's probably, one of those games we got pretty lucky to win. We didn't play real great that night and found a way to put it in the hoop at the end. But we've also played a really, really tough schedule. And one of the things when I took the job, I got our seniors together and I asked them, I said, hey, we have a chance to play so-and-so and so-and-so. You guys in, or, how do you guys want to do that? And every single one of those guys were, coach, let's go do it. And, so playing teams like Totino Grace up in Minneapolis, going down to Kansas City and playing in the 12 Courts of Christmas. Unfortunately, we didn't get to play West Des Moines Valley. I wish we would have, because that would have been a fantastic game. But we've been battle tested, and that's really helped keep our guys focused throughout the year, and knowing that, every single night you go out, everybody wants to beat you. And so you have to be prepared and mentally ready to go.
Coach, I was giving you a hard time about that Miller North game back in December, but it has been a really long time since you guys have lost a game. I know coaches say all the time you learn more from your losses than you do from your victories. Are you at all concerned that maybe you haven't had enough learning opportunities this year?
No, we've had plenty of learning opportunities. I mean, we had, you played Central at Central, and, again, that night we didn't play great. I
said earlier, that gym is a weird setup. Where
it is.
Isn't that something? It is.
It is.
It's like,
and we go to Gretna to end the year, and we had played, the night before against a really good Papio South team, and happened to pull that out and had to come back before. I mean, it was like 12 hours, and we had to play again, and so I mean, yes, you hope that you don't have to lose a game in order to learn something, and I don't think these guys recognize, and these guys know that everybody's out for them, and everybody wants to beat them, and they're going to get everybody's best shot, and that includes today. I mean, Creighton Prep is nothing to be overlooking or to be, it's a 1-8. Well, no, it's not a 1-8. It's a lot different than any regular 1-8 you've probably seen recently in the state tournament, especially.
You know how good Bill Hurd is as a representative of young people. He said, just think about this, DB. In 2024, Prep's an 8 and Gretna's a 7. Like that's all you need to know about.
That shows you how great this state tournament could be for fans, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a great opportunity to go watch some really, really super high level games. And if we're all being honest, outside of maybe one, maybe two, I would say maybe one, I do think probably the best 8 teams in Class A are in the state tournament, which is great, which is what people want.
It's interesting because I think it's different for both teams. And Ravi and I have been doing this the last week since the field were set. We try to talk strengths, weaknesses, capping. I think I said this about Coach Luedtke. Prep's guards have to find a way to neutralize your backcourt. Conversely, and who knows what happens with Trinnell, but Clausen and those guys, they have to find a way to make your bigs guard. How much do you get into the cat and mouse matchups of playing 3 games in 3 days versus 4 days versus we got to do what we do? Because scout is obviously important.
Sure. I mean, scout's huge. I think right now is our mindset is on this game and what we have to do in order to give ourselves the best chance to win this game this afternoon. And when you're playing in games this time of year, you have to take team strengths away from them.
Yeah.
And obviously, Creighton Prep's strengths are their 2 big guys. and they maybe, throughout the season, maybe haven't had the year people maybe thought they would, but that doesn't realistically. I mean, Coach Luedtke's had a week and a half to prepare.
Yeah.
And so,
and if there's one thing he can do, he can get guys motivated.
Absolutely, he can. And I'm sure. Coach was on earlier this morning. I'm sure he probably said, there isn't anybody in the world.
Yep.
Nobody's rooting for us, and
it was only the 13,000
just the
alumni
alums,
that thought that they could win.
That are pulling for
Coach
Prep.
K, you know it. You got him nailed.
And I love Coach Luedtke.
Me too.
Fantastic job, and realistically, it's it's going to be a challenge for us to find a way to minimize their use of their big guys, but yet, their guards are not terrible. I mean, I coached Marquise in the summer. Marquise has made huge strides in the last year and a half.
He competes,
and yes, and he's tough and he's physical, and Carson Jones has shot since we played them. Carson Jones is 48% from the 3-point line on the season.
Hey, just
after we played them.
Yeah,
you can't just.
I think he upped it about 10% against Westside in about a quarter and a half.
Well, and then you got Torrin, who really had a really good game against us, and he's not a guy to just you can't. So these guys are really good, and we're going to have to be on our game. And I think the biggest thing for us is, and we focused over the last week, is getting better defensively and guarding. I know we can score in a lot of different ways, and we've been fortunate enough to really shoot the ball well this season. And I know that may not happen down there, but the one thing is for certain is even if we don't shoot it well in Lincoln, we can always go back on our defense. And if we guard well, we're going to have an opportunity to win a game.
I'm not just doing this to flatter you, and I always try to. You know how I felt about you for years. But you're proving that nice guys don't have to finish last. You're replacing a legend, a great coach in his own, and you have your own style. It's vastly different, even though you guys spent a lot of time on the bench together. What is it about this group and their mindset that has meshed so well with your personality?
Well, I think the fact that our seniors have been there before, and they know what they want to do. They want to have an opportunity to win a state championship, and it's got nothing to do with what happened last season or the season before or anything like this. This is their own team, and I think a lot of these guys are pretty quiet. If you knew them. Yeah. Like, Eldon Turner's not a real, vocal kid. Jaden Jackson's not a vocal kid.
I know it.
Garcia is a quiet. I mean, but, a guy like Jacob Arope, he's a vocal go-getter. And Isaiah McNorris is a pretty quiet kid. And so I think they mesh really well, considering I'm not a real quiet person. And if you've watched any games, I pretty much wear everything on my sleeve. And you know how I feel.
Yep.
And I think that it's been a good combination for our kids and me, and our kids have bought into, what our goals are and what we're trying to do. And they've done a fantastic job. And I'm very blessed. And I fully understand and know that, I've got really, really good players that I get to coach, and I am beyond thankful. And it kind of gives you an idea with Coach Woodard, how good of a man he is when he decides to retire, and he could have taken this group and, tried to go back to back and all this and that. And he didn't do that because it was never about him. And that's what I don't want this ever to be about me. I'm not out there making shots. I'm not out there guarding. I'm not out there doing all that stuff. Those guys are. And it's a credit to our kids for what they've been able to accomplish so far this season. And hopefully we're not done with that.
Well said, Coach. I joked yesterday. I said Eldon Turner could babysit Zoe. Jaden Jackson I've traveled with. Jacob Arope has the $1 million smile. Like, the seniors across the board in this 2024 class, it is an unbelievable group of quality players across the board. I mean, a multitude of schools, right? It's a great stretch.
Coach,
Yes, it is.
We appreciate your time. I'm personally rooting for like a 90-89 final. I know you were trying to get a little defense in there, but maybe
He just skipping over Westside and everybody else.
Maybe
You
like
guys
a
do your thing.
90-89 Miller North Bellevue West final. I won't tell you who I'm rooting for. Coach, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Coach.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln for our third hour. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube and we're brought to you by our friends at the Team Jack Foundation. TeamJackFoundation.org is where you can go to find out how to get involved. Events, giving directly from the website, and you can find out about their focus and their goals, which, to sum up, it's just to find better treatments for kids fighting brain cancer and one day a cure. It's a pretty simple mission and a pretty easy one to get behind as well. And people have done that. Over $12 million and counting raised to date with national institutes such as Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, Memorial Sloan Kettering, of course, Columbia University, and the Nebraska Medical Center as well, with the development of their Nebraska Childhood Brain Tumor Program. Team Jack Foundation is doing everything they can to make a difference in kids' lives who are dealing with brain cancer, and you can get involved as well. That's teamjackfoundation.org. Wanted to return to something we were talking about briefly with Brian Christopherson.
Return of the King?
Great movie. Love it.
Fantastic.
We're big Lord of the Rings guys over here. This is something that's
the third best one of those three.
That's not accurate. That is not accurate.
The first one's the best, the second one's the second best, and the third one.
The first one is by far the worst.
The first one's the best.
It's 100% the worst.
You're out of your mind.
Of the three.
It's still a good movie.
Of the three originals, that's the best one.
You're out of your mind.
For the basic idea of it.
No, you are out
take
of
all
your
the special
mind,
effects and all that kind of what.
Take a time out.
So let me guess.
Take a time out.
You don't like walking? Is that what it is?
Christopher Walken, I think he's fine. Take a time out, Shano.
Walker, wrong. Texas Rangers, you don't like him?
Reference
You're wrong on this one.
Get Chris Severe on line one. She'll represent.
The first one is the best. That's like my third favorite movie of all time.
The Walking movies.
I'm sorry that you have terrible taste in movies and apparently all things. That's fine. But you don't have to infect the rest of us with that. Return of the King is
the worst of the three. It's the worst of the three.
You're out of your mind.
It's the worst one.
You can turn that mic off anytime now.
He's so whiny. Why are you saying it like that? I mean, no disrespect, but that's not very convincing. It's the worst one.
It is.
Okay, there you go again. Stop it.
It is by far
the worst one.
No.
Wait, do I need to make my voice a little bit deeper? It's the worst one.
I think you need to make your voice a little bit off of the microphone.
It's the worst of the Lord of the Rings movies. You go the first one, the second one, then the third one. The third one is trash. By the time they got to making the third one, all of them were trying to catch a bus to get someplace else.
You done anytime now? You good?
No. He's still on cloud nine from watching my man Nolan Sailors go ham last night.
Is that what he is? That's what he's on?
Yeah.
I don't think that might not be it.
Yeah.
I wanted to get back to something we were talking about.
Showing his daddy's power.
Shout
out Nico and Nolan. But anyway, keep going. I'm sorry.
Now maybe
Shane, you got to stop, man.
Maybe you were confused with the Hobbits because those go in reverse order. The first one's the worst, but the third one's the best. They get better as they go.
You just want to go? I can leave.
Hey, where's Doc Sadler when I need him?
I got stuff to do.
I don't even recognize what we're doing. So I'll start it with a Ricky Tikki Tavi reference. I am a little surprised you did not see The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe as a cartoon either.
I didn't see the cartoon. I saw the movie when it came out. I don't know, 05 or 06, whatever that was. But I didn't see the original cartoon.
Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah.
All right. Back to something Coach Rule said with Brian Christopherson.
By the way, Avery Howard says that she's got my back. She likes the first one.
She wasn't even alive when those came out.
Why does that matter? It doesn't matter.
I like Avery, so I'm not.
I do too.
I'm not knocking.
I just have to have something to use against Shane. So
it's not that I dislike Shane. It's just Avery doesn't usually have a lot of That's weird. Really? I don't know, Abe.
Fellowship is not the best one.
I don't think we can ride with that
one. But that's the one that they based all. That's what I was telling you when we were in break. At least I was trying to, but then we were coming out of break.
But you can't say things like take away the special effects.
That's part of a movie. I don't know if you know this, but the way a movie looks, they actually have an entire category about that for the Academy Awards.
I know that.
Do you know that? Because I'm pretty sure that you're ignoring the entire part of a movie.
The first Lord of the Rings, where they get the group together, and they form the group and they form what they're doing and they set out on their journey. It's the basis for everything that you know. The Avengers, the Justice League. I mean, you could go on and on. Star Wars, you could go on and on and on. All of that stuff is based off of that idea.
What is going on?
Yeah, I don't care, Shane. It's not as good of a movie. That's all.
It's a much better movie.
You gotta stop.
Dude,
okay, I'm done.
The voice is killing me.
It's all killing me. Can we talk about anything else? Are we okay now?
Yeah, I was trying to get back to Brian Christopherson and Coach Rule.
One of the things that Coach Rule said yesterday that I thought was, I don't know if I've heard him say before. It kind of makes sense and is in line with a lot of stuff we hear from him. But
people have to understand, like, he coached JD, so it's like there's a
relationship there.
Of being a fan.
Yeah, and I also, when I say stump speech, I don't mean it negatively. I just mean we talk to him so much that a lot of times the stuff he'll say nationally is stuff we've heard already, right? Stuff that we're familiar with. The one thing he said yesterday that I don't think I've heard him say.
But you know what's funny, though?
What?
I told you, like, in the summer,
Mm-hmm.
I can't even, so it was obviously last summer, right? And I was talking about him being an orator, and we were talking about a ton of things. And he goes, listen, I'll be saying the same thing in 5 years. Slow your roll. Like,
yeah.
Like, he was trying to temper my enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I have specific.
He's got like core tenets.
Yep. I have specific things that I rally around, and that's what I do. And so I was like, okay, I'll let it ride.
And I do appreciate that about him. I also appreciate that despite the fact that he believes in these handful of things, you still get new stuff and you get new kind of nuggets. One of them yesterday that I wrote down was him talking about things that you don't like doing.
Dominating things you don't like doing.
Can you be competitive at things you hate? Can you dominate things you hate? That's not something I've heard him talk about before.
So you're right. And remember last week when I was talking about, like, you can callous your mind,
mm-hmm.
like getting up at a certain time or pushing through things you don't like. And then at the end of the day, like, your mind just becomes callous to tough things. I likened it to weather when I said I wear the same thing regardless of how
hot, how cold, whatever.
How hot or how cold it is. He said it a different way, but that's exactly what I gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm.
And I used it in reference. Now, this was not great because it was like diagnosis and there's a little bit of a fear factor that things could be going on physically. And I'm like, you got to stop thinking negatively. Like, there's this thing that happens with your mind when you compete and you push through where you just expect the best.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe I lacked perspective and a little sensitivity, but that's really the only way that I know how to function, right? It's like good can come out of this.
Yeah. And there's a fine line to walk.
I know you picked it that tough.
Well, so there's a fine line to walk between being empathetic for people and also trying to help them realize that they're not necessarily at the mercy of their situation.
Yeah, it's a very fine line.
It is, right?
Because
you don't want to seem uncaring.
Because I think sometimes with people, they want you to be sensitive to their feelings, but that doesn't mean that I have to condone the behavior.
100%.
So that's the difference between empathy and sympathy.
Or
people
empathy
use them
and
interchangeably, and it's not.
No, they're not the same.
It's not the same.
I mean, you want to talk about Rule stump speech? Another thing that we hear him say all the time: caring, not coddling. That's the difference.
100%.
Right? Caring is empathy. Coddling is enabling. Right? They care about you, so they care what you're going through. They care what you're experiencing. They care about what you're feeling. But they're not coddling. They're not going to just say, "Oh, woe is me. You're a victim of your situation."
Coach, I was up till 10:30 with our online study group. 6 o'clock workouts rolled around, man. I'm 12 minutes late. Oh, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying. But you know what we're gonna do to not have that happen again?
Maybe get our work done a little earlier next time.
And you're not off the hook.
Yes, right,
right. Because if you can be understanding of the situation, but not foster the behavior.
Because there's still, and I think a big thing, and maybe I'm reading too much into what I think he's doing here, but he talks all the time about not just developing football players, but developing people, right? He understands that you're going to have a time in your life, most likely, you get married, you have a family, whatever, you're going to be up until 10:30, 11, midnight, whatever, because you got a sick kid or your wife's working late or whatever, right? You've got something going on in your life. Still got to get to work by 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever the time is, right?
Yep.
He understands that having empathy for someone's situation does not make them immune to consequences, right? There's going to be times where you have to sacrifice that extra 10, 15 hour of sleep in order to get everything done that you need to get done. And that's the biggest difference for me, because I hear stuff like this, and I'm not going to play any football games anytime soon, right? But I hear this and I go, that's useful for me. That's useful for people who aren't going to play football.
Yeah, and he followed it up with, people, if you're kind of a cynic and you kind of laugh at the mat drills, or you feel like it's overplayed, it's callousing of the mind.
I've got the quote right here. We're trying to get in the mindset that when things get really hard, we attack and we expect good things to happen.
It's just how it goes.
Because a lot of times when things get hard, you're just best case scenario, you're just trying to survive. Worst case scenario, you resign yourself to your situation. And instead, and I think we've seen that a lot in Nebraska football over the last however many years.
You call it lack of accountability.
I think that's
some
part
people
of it.
Call it excuse making. Most people after a certain amount of time are having none of it.
Yeah.
Because when you're allowed to, it's like I always used to say, what are you doing in the meantime while you're waiting for good players?
Most people will do what they're allowed to get away with.
100%.
Right?
It's human nature. It doesn't matter if that is.
And that doesn't make you a good or bad person or whatever.
100% human nature.
You do what you're allowed to get away with, right? So if Coach Rule has sympathy instead of empathy, and he says, you were 12 minutes late, that's okay. That's okay. Well, don't worry about it. You won't have class next time. It'll be okay. No, there's consequences for not upholding the standard, because there's consequences in games when you don't uphold the standard.
Mm-hmm.
It matters if you don't make the right read. It matters if you take the wrong first step, whether you're offense, defense, whatever. It matters if you're a quarterback and you turn the wrong way. Like, all of those things matter. That's what being 12 minutes late is.
You know what the real key is, though? as I heard this all goes back to the stump speech.
Mm-hmm.
And did we get any new nuggets? Is I think he has a next level coachable moment in him. They're just not there yet.
Yeah, they're not ready to hear it.
So what I'm interested in is, can you talk about something's like, what's the breaking point? You talk about having to know your team, right? Coach Luedtke, like, in all the good, because I felt like he was outstanding.
Yes.
When he said,
we know we're in anyway, what are you going to do?
Yeah, when he told his team that.
Yeah, he's like, hey, we've been scoreboard watching. We're in. What are you going to do?
I felt like that was
the stones to say that to a group of high school kids and know how they're going to respond is unreal.
Yeah, like I
think that kind of slid under the radar.
I was like, wow, like that was gutsy.
Yeah, you said that to him.
Like, that was gutsy. Like,
yes.
You have to really know your team.
You have to have an incredible pulse.
So what I'm saying with this is something along similar vein, because it's like when you talk about fumbling or turning the ball over, you can talk about it so much where it goes from subconscious to conscious.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole not checking the rear view mirror or being afraid of the outcomes or just letting it rip, he's got to understand, his staff has to understand, at some point you go from speaking against it and trying to combat it to speaking it into existence. You have to know when that threshold is.
So that's interesting, because I don't know if it's a matter of how much you talk about it. I think it might be how you talk about it.
I don't know. I think you may be splitting hairs.
Maybe,
but it's at first blush. So I'm just saying that because this is real time.
So let me explain what I mean there. Let's use the fumbles, for example, right? If you're Anthony Grant and all of a sudden, obviously he had the ball control issues in practice. They talked about it. He had it in games a little bit. There were consequences for his playing time. But if you've always talked about ball control, always, you can be looking ahead. You cannot be looking in the rearview mirror, because the standard for ball control is this, right? It has nothing to do with Anthony Grant specifically. It's that, hey, we have a guy not meeting the standard, right? If you talk about it in a way of, hey, ball control is a thing we do. Ball control is the thing that we care about. We preach, we teach. We teach the X factor. We do all this stuff, right? That's different than if you're like, hey, Anthony, you got to hold on to the ball. Anthony, you got to hold on to the ball. Anthony, you got to hold on to the ball. Like, that's a different thing.
Yes.
So that's why I say how versus how much.
Yes, but there's also those points where if something has fundamentally been ingrained, hey, with 2 strikes or hitters count, right? 2-0, this is our approach to the plate. Excuse me. It doesn't happen a couple of times. All of a sudden you get hit for. If it's ingrained and it's in the culture, the coach sometimes won't have to say anything at all. You know that the last 2 times you had a 2-0 hitters count and you go flailing at a baseball, hitting something off speed. That's not what we do. That's different than saying constantly, and it's not berating because I don't want to imply negative connotation, but when you keep saying, this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do. Because at some point, and I said this about the last staff, the more you keep having to say it, the less ingrained it is. There are times where something can happen, whether it's the second time I put it on the carpet against UCLA or whatever. A couple of coaches asked me to come talk defense. Coach Lamanji says, hey, we don't do that here. He could have easily said, hey, remember when we first got hired, I said the family is the family. We keep business in it. He could have kept beating that over my head. And at some point I'm going to be like, hey, man, I get it. Like, I got it. But he just had to say that. So there's power both ways. Sometimes it's in what you don't say that is as powerful as what you, or the timing of what you do say, right? Because if I look at you, there are things that I want to get, that I want to work on with the show, right? Sometimes I can just give you a look. Sometimes you can give me a look. I don't have to say it. You don't have to say it to me because you're going to reach a point of diminishing returns where you don't want to hear it. So the key is to know your audience. So it doesn't sometimes always have to be said. You have to trust that the message is made.
Sure. I think it's fair that it doesn't always have to be said, but isn't that where modeled behavior comes in?
There has to be see, for me,
because that's a component of it too, right?
That's the most important thing.
Sure. And so maybe, I guess when I say how versus how much, I'm including modeled behavior.
Yeah, that's okay. That's part of it.
It doesn't always have to be verbal.
That's part of it,
right? Because I do think there gets to a point where Anthony Grant, let's say he puts it on the carpet in practice, he probably can just get a look from Coach Barthel, and he knows.
Yeah, he puts it on the carpet and he gets it back, and then he comes out the next play. Do you think you have to say anything to him?
No, he knows at that point, right? But again,
you shoot 3 bad shots and you get pulled. Do you think, Coach, you have to say, hey, man, one more pass?
I say, hey, Coach, you know why I'm out there. I'm out there to shoot.
Do you know what I mean, though?
Yeah, no, I do. But that to me is also, you're saying something, you're just not verbalizing. You're still saying something to them. That's the how versus how much to me.
If the culture's set.
Right, but you have to set the culture.
Why don't I complain? Why am I typically not a complainer about my situation? Because it's been ingrained in me when I wanted to be a baby and whine in the locker room, or, during my first marriage, how come this and how come that? Listen, at some point it became cool not to be BCDing all the time.
Yeah.
Stop blaming, complaining, deflecting. Like, what can you control? So then it became habit the other way. When people stopped listening and I had fewer corners to listen to whisper in, and people started looking at me sideways, I just stopped talking. Nobody else had to say anything. I'm like, I better figure this out, because somebody's either going to tell on me or nobody wants to hear it.
Yeah.
So but that's because the culture is so set. So he's got to know, Coach Rule, okay, I feel like I can turn this over to the players now. See, right? He's not quite there yet, which is why he has to keep saying the message.
But again, turning it over to the players isn't stop saying it. It's how you say it.
No, I understand.
Right?
Or it just becomes modeled behavior.
Sure, right? Because it's the same. It's the thing he talked about before. Or I mean, this might be going all the way back to the coach's clinic in Texas last summer, where he goes, hey, you set the standard, and then you hold them accountable to that standard, and then they take ownership of that standard, right? That ownership is where the other players hold each other accountable instead of it having to come from the coaches all the time, right? That's where you guys got to, right? That's what made those teams, one of the things that made those teams so special.
You saw it happen with this team this year. You had one guy, when the player accountability, when it started to morph into that, he decided football wasn't for him. You had another guy who'd been off malign and much oft criticized, started practice on suspension last
Tommy
year,
Hill.
end up flourishing.
Yeah.
Right? So it reveals itself because the culture starts to dictate what's going to be acceptable.
And some guys are about it and some guys aren't. Right? And that's okay. I mean, listen, if
I say it all the time, it's not for everybody.
It's not.
Tough sport played by tough people. Find something else different to do.
And listen, there's different situations too where you can get away with maybe not being about it. Is that going to be the best for you? Probably not. But there's places, if you just want to go play football and not have to deal with all that other stuff, there's places you can go.
This can come up when we talk to Coach Simons in the last start. He's got 7 seniors.
Yeah.
Right? But there's still a role he has to play as the head coach, even though he's got 7 seniors. If they were a finished product.
But it's a different role than if it was 7 freshmen.
Yeah, they don't need him to coach.
Right.
Right? So
not to the same degree.
Right. Like that's the kind of,
it's more of a hands-off, guided.
And it's knowing, it's being cognizant of when those
That's the hardest part.
The
hardest part is knowing when to let off the throttle.
100%.
Right? That's the part where you have to have infinite trust in Coach Rule.
That's why I think, like, on a smaller example that we just talked about, like when Coach Luedtke said that, it caught me off guard. Because, like, real time in a stressful situation to have the stones, and maybe it's not courage to him, because he was real matter of fact. He's like, yeah, I said it 3 or 4 times. Like, I said, man, you're talking about knowing your team.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Right?
To not only admit that you're scoreboard watching, but then to tell your team, hey, we don't need this one.
Yeah, who's saying that?
Right? Nobody. Nobody's saying that.
And it worked.
That's the best part. The best part is that it worked, right?
Yeah.
But that's where you have to have the ultimate trust in, whether it's Coach Luedtke, Coach Rule, whoever, right? Coach Simons, is you have to have the ultimate trust in their ability to know what their team needs.
And I go back to something you said last week and the week before. Real trust of model behavior is when it goes against
what you want
or
what you think is right
as the individual,
even when they're wrong. Right? Like, you might be right, they might be wrong. Do you still trust them?
Yeah.
Right? Do you still trust them? That's when it's good, because the trust is more important than the answer in that specific situation. David, hold on the line there. We'll get to your high school basketball take here in just a minute here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We've been talking a lot about high school basketball. We've got Boys State starting today, but there's another basketball tournament that starts in just a couple weeks as well. And if you want to try and win $1 million, you need to get over to our friends at Warhorse Casino and enter their $1 million Perfect Bracket Challenge. Free entries for the Warhorse Rewards members, and you can earn additional entries every day from March 1st to March 14th. Still got another week left if you can do that with a $50 sportsbook wager or 50 points on slots and racing. Even if you don't get that $1 million prize, there's still $10,000 in prizes for top brackets, including weekly prizes throughout the tournament. After you get your entries in, you'll make your picks between Selection Sunday and March 20th, and then make sure you activate your entries in person at Warhorse Casino Lincoln between the 18th and the 24th to make sure you're eligible for those prizes, including that $1 million perfect bracket. They're also doing another $100,000 prop card challenge for the semifinals and finals, so you can get those entries up until March 28th for the $100,000 prop card challenge. That's Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. Go to warhorsecasino.com for all details and house rules. Speaking of basketball, we've got David on the line. He wants to talk a little high school basketball. joining us now. David, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's happening, fellas?
D, what's up, buddy?
Not much, man. I heard you say something earlier. First of all, man, Shane got on a little bit of a heater there about the Lord of the Rings.
Shane's crazy.
I'm ready to fight him, honestly.
Shane's crazy.
I'll tell you what, man. I don't know if you want to mess with two Shanes, though. He's different.
Me and my partner, two Shanes. Shane, that thing wet?
I'll take my chances.
Yeah, well, I mean, for a little bit there, I was just like, beat it, nerd, but.
My buddy Jay said the same. My buddy Jay said the same thing. He's like, "Wow, it's a nerd fight." I was like, "Hey, not nerds because they like movies."
DB likes Lord of the Rings too. All right, so
I wasn't gonna die on any hill though.
Yeah, but you know I was right.
D, what I say that got you going?
On your game tonight, man. Unc Sauter is going to be at that Lincoln Southeast game, right? So you better be on your game, sitting courtside in case you need to break some things up.
Oh man. My man apologized a couple of times. We're good.
No, yeah, it's all good. Unc Sauter, he gets going sometimes. He's like, he's like that honest person that he just kind of calls things as he sees them. That's why I call him, that grumpy uncle. I had an uncle one time. I went to a funeral one time of my uncle. Like I walk in and saying hi to everybody. My uncle's like, "Man, every time I see you, you get bigger." I'm like, "Damn, I didn't realize I was going to 2 funerals today."
Get the emergency casket ready.
That's my daughter would be right there in a nutshell.
Oh shoot! What's up? What I say that sparked the thought?
Yeah, he's a good dude, but you said something a little bit ago.
Okay.
That really resonated, and that was the discussion. You had a talking point on the seniors within this class. I don't know if people realize, and I want to encourage people to not only watch the games, go to the games, because I wouldn't say that it feels like a chapter's ending, but in a certain circumstance it does with a lot of these seniors that are, in these groups with Arope and Eldon Turner, Jaden Jackson, Pekorski, Wilcox, and Tay Moore. There's a group of guys that were fantastic basketball players that we've had the pleasure of seeing these last 4 years and making a difference on a team since their freshman years. And there's going to be plenty more talent that's coming along. I think, for me at least, these guys are kind of paving a way. You see all the success that Nebraska basketball's having, not only from Nebraska and Creighton levels and whatnot, but Peru State College.
Hastings, fantastic.
Hastings,
on the GPAC.
Right. There's a lot of things going on great in this basketball world. And I think that these kids over these last 4 or 5 years we've seen have a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to have a lot to do with that. So, first I want everybody to celebrate, these kids and make sure you watch these games and realize the talent that's been here and hopefully is going to remain for the next so many years to come. So you were kind of talking about senior class, and then
how many of those guys, D, have played since like CJ, Caleb, Pekorski? A lot of these guys have been playing varsity since they were freshmen.
Absolutely.
And it's across the state. It's not just, it's a lot of Dale Thomas. Like,
yeah, there's talent. Like you said, CJ Mitchell and Kevin Stubblefield. All these guys. There's just an amazing talent level and appreciation that needs to be there. That we've gotten 4 years of great basketball. Yes, dominated. Jason and Neil Mosser, right?
Yep.
It's gotten dominated by West and Millard North. That unfortunately some of these other kids have been.
and I was serious too, D, about the caliber of the quality of person, Pekorski and Wilcox and doing the 3-on-3 for Coach Feakin, or me saying Eldon could babysit Zoe and I wouldn't bat an eye at it, right? Mosser coming to Westside to support our family, and just a lot of Rope, the $1 million smile. It's just really, really good, just good kids.
Yeah, great players, good kids. I think that I don't want people to undervalue what's happened these last handful of years, and we see, like I said, we see that success at that next level, even for guys like Hunter and Chucky, and it's been something special the last handful of years. that we've gotten and to be involved with, and you more closely than some with Caleb. So, it's another special talent. And I really, what I look forward to most today, like I very much enjoy basketball, but I love football. That's kind of the way that I am.
Yeah.
And I enjoy these cross athletes, right? Like Caleb, so I'm looking forward to seeing.
It's a lot of football guys playing.
Right. I'm looking forward to seeing Simmons from Shelton because I don't get to see him very often, if at all. But Carter Ainsworth, I seen him, Carter Nelson Adams.
We knew what you meant.
That's great. I
knew what you meant.
I may go with that from here on out. Deanna, go up. Let's go Carter Ainsworth. I like it.
But we hosted a little event just to get kids free tape a couple years ago, and we had Carter showed up, and we had Braden Frager there, and Minor Strong, and we had Bryson Ball, Jacob Barope. I mean, all these kids came because we didn't charge anything. We just wanted to record, give them some free film they could use for colleges. So Fraden was like a freshman, and Carter came. And I would tell you, witnessing the athletic ability of that young man in person is something to behold. I was just amazed. I don't think he took, and as a matter of fact, he came up and told me afterwards, I didn't take one jump shot today. And he just kind of laughed about it. And granted, the defense wasn't amazing, but
it's kind of the year of the, I don't know how I worded it, but the Devin Holmans, the Bryson Balls, the Tay Moores, the guys that are really good players, but kind of fly under the huge recruiting radar.
Yeah.
Jaden Jackson,
maybe not going super high D1 like some of the guys in the past,
but
classes.
Are just just really
good basketball players.
I'm as good a player than maybe the attention I've gotten has received. There's a lot of that.
Even Reese Kircher, Reese is a hell of a player, man.
Just ask him when he got hurt. Look what happened. I mean,
these kids, I want people to appreciate it. I'm very much looking forward to those cross athletes. I'm looking forward to seeing Gage Hedstrom. I don't know if people see the Techno Bowl type numbers that kid puts up at St. Mary's at that lower level, but I mean, that kid is an athlete. He averages probably well over 20 points a game in basketball, and he's averaging 400 yards, a game in football. He is an athlete. So I'm looking, and I'm a North alum, so I'm very much looking forward to the North Central game. And I like that where North is. I like that, I'm a big Delaron Thomas, that have been for.
He's a competitive son of a gun, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Since he's a freshman, I've been saying how good he is.
So, D, let me tell you something. And I think I'm being objective. I think most of the Metro coaches will tell you. I think Caleb is regarded as one of the better, if not the best, on the ball defender in the state.
Mm-hmm.
You know who his two toughest guards are? Both guys you mentioned. Can't stand guarding Frager, and hates to guard Minor Strong. Two guys that people. I think Frager gets some run because obviously he's the Division I offer, but you just mentioned a guy like Minor Strong who's under recruited.
Absolutely.
Tay Moore under recruited.
His money's gotten better.
Jaden Jackson they're just guys that are under recruited in my opinion.
David,
100%.
We appreciate the call. Good talk on high school sports there, or high school basketball there. We will wrap up our boys basketball state previews with Jim Simons of Westside coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And we are joined now by Westside boys basketball coach Jim Simons. Coach, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Coach, I've been taking it on the chin this morning, accused of playing favorites, but you did, go last, so I think I was very partial in that. Kidding. Glad your schedule fit, by the way.
Probably some people who would say that's a good place for me to go. So
Coach Klein and Coach Luedtke were hilarious. Like they both took their fair share of shots, so it was good.
I'll have to go back and listen on the podcast. So
Coach Klein had Coach Luedtke nailed, so I thought that was pretty funny.
They're both friends of mine, and Coach Luedtke's not all that hard to have take down. So I don't know that we'll give Steve all that much credit for that. So,
Coach,
go ahead,
Coach. As you get ready for your game tonight against Lincoln Southeast, that's been a tough matchup for you as of late. What are some of the things that Lincoln Southeast does that are challenging?
Well, it has been. You're right. I mean, obviously they beat us in December, and they beat us last year in the opening game of the year. And like all the teams down there, the biggest thing that stands out is they're a talented, connected, tough team, and that makes them really difficult. Specifically, the first time we played, we didn't guard the dribble very well, and they're very good off the dribble, and we have to do a better job tonight of guarding the dribble and trying to keep them from getting in the paint and getting downhill, and they beat us up pretty good on the boards, and we've got to rebound better. They're a strong physical veteran team, and I think they pride themselves on their ability to score in the paint and to try to win the board game, and we got to be much better in those two areas. And if we are, we'll give ourselves a chance, and if we're not, the result will probably be similar to what it was in December.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement too. And sometimes scout doesn't always add up, right? Dang hit the couple of threes early and got them going, and couldn't keep Nagoya out of the paint. They got off to that's a 25-point quarter, I think, which I think which I was going to say, I think it's
10.
Yeah, I think it's the second most you've given up. Millard North had the huge fourth quarter at Westside too. How do you what's the storyline with your guys if they understand it's got to start on the defensive end for you heading into this weekend?
Well, you're right. I mean, the first game it was 25-10, and before we blinked, and then we did a much better job the last three quarters. We kind of settled in. They shot it extremely well in the first quarter. Some of it, credit to them. They made shots, and part of it was we didn't do a very good job of contesting shots and getting hands up. I just thought it came down to, I remember telling the guys between the first and the second quarter, I thought they came into the game, they had a really tough early schedule. They had a couple really tough losses, and we were 5-0, and I thought they were ready for a fight at the start of the game, and we missed the opening bell, and we weren't ready for a fight at the start of the game, and hence it was 25-10 before we blinked. And then I thought we got ourselves into the fight as the game went along and battled back. And I think we had 3 or 4 possessions where we had the ball down, one possession where a shot could have tied it or given us the lead, and they were able to get a stop on all those possessions. And we just put ourselves in such a big hole. So I think our guys are experienced. They've certainly been down there. They know how tough and talented Southeast is. I anticipate we'll be much more ready to go at the start, and we'll need to be, because obviously Southeast is also a very experienced, talented team.
Coach, I asked Coach Werning this yesterday. He kind of poo-pooed it a little bit, but is there something to having to kind of sit around all day waiting for this game at 7:45? Like, how do you manage emotions when you haven't played for 10 days and now you got to wait all day knowing that you've got a date in Lincoln tonight? Like, how do you manage not only your own emotions, but the team's sort of focus and emotions as well?
Yeah, it kind of is what it is. You don't get much say in when you play. I guess if you look at it, you try to keep your routines and everything as normal as possible. And we played a ton of, whether it's 7 o'clock or 7:15 starts throughout the course of the year. So it's maybe a little bit more of a normal time frame than, the guys who get the 1:30 or the 3:15 games. We haven't played many, if any, 1:30 or 3:15 games. So from that standpoint, you just try to keep your routine the same and do the same things that you've done all year. It's, we don't play on Wednesdays often, but we played on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock, quite a bit. But, there's obviously a little bit different emotion for this one. And there probably is something to be said for, just getting out and playing. But, first 3 games should be awful entertaining. We'll keep an eye on those 3 and then get down there and just try to keep our normal routine. But the time between games is certainly something that you try to account for. I know our guys are sick of practicing against each other, and I'm sure everybody's the same case, because that is the unusual thing. I mean, we played a ton of 7 o'clock games throughout the course of the year, but very rarely do you go, 8, 9 days, 10 days, whatever it's been between games. And that is a little bit different. We've done some things each year. You try to figure out a plan. We've been fortunate enough to be down there 5 of the last 6 years. And some years we played really well in the first round and it looked like our plan worked. And in a year or two, we haven't played very well in the first round and our plan wasn't very good, evidently. So just try to kind of lean on that past experience and figure out a schedule that works best, not only for today, but the time period between districts and state.
It's kind of interesting that your journey, as you talk about 5 out of 6, you've played young players, but historically, I mean, you don't go super deep in your bench. You said goodbye to some seniors of the year with Payson and Reggie and those guys and Chandler, and all of a sudden you have another old group this year. And I think it's by design. Yeah, there should be some credit there. A lot of experience, a lot of veterans. How do you know when to push and understand the moment versus you guys are fairly mature. It's a good group. I trust you. Like, what's that give and take like?
Well, I think you nailed it. I mean, this group that we have has played a lot of basketball, whether it's state tournament basketball or just basketball in general. And I trust these guys, and, you know, we try to just kind of keep it the same, you know, try to keep our preparation the same. You know, my hope is they'll see the same coach tonight that they've seen, you know, throughout the course of the year. But I think our experience certainly helps us. It's a unique tournament field in that there's not a lot. There's a couple teams that are a little bit less experienced, but there's, you know, the whole Class A basketball throughout the course of the year has been really senior heavy, especially amongst the teams that are down there. And obviously Southeast, as I referenced, they were there last year and they're plenty experienced as well. But I think it helps. And we're super confident in our guys that, you know, they've been down there. Doesn't mean you're going to play well. Doesn't mean you're going to shoot well, you know, but I think it helps, you know, that our guys have been down there. They've been through it. You know, we've got obviously 3 seniors in Caleb, Kevin, and CJ that this will be their 3rd state tournament. And then, you know, our other guys, you know, most everybody who's going to be on the floor for us today was down there last year and played in a couple games last year. So that's comforting. And I think it helps just that, you know, they'll be used to the environment.
There's a couple teams in particular that won't go very deep. I mean, 7 max and you know, Gretna and Westside, and you guys got to manage the potential of playing 3 games in 4 days if all things go correctly. Have you changed? Do you trust? Do you try not to overthink it, knowing you got to play the long game, or are you like, hey, this is March, this is the end of the season, we got to let it ride, and we'll see what happens?
I'm probably more the latter. You know, I think, you know, one, you got to take each game one at a time, right? I mean, if you don't win tonight, obviously Friday and Saturday are irrelevant because we'll be paying
that's a good point.
You know, $8, $10, whatever it is to watch the game. So, you know, to me, one, you got to take it one at a time. 2, we've got a bunch of veteran experienced guys that have played a ton of basketball. Almost all these guys, whether it's on our team, you reference Gretna doesn't go super deep, Southeast doesn't go super deep. And these kids have played so much AAU basketball and club basketball growing up that, you know, 3 games in 4 days, you know, would be a light weekend, you know, in the AAU circuit. So, and obviously the games are different, right? I mean, there's a little bit more at stake and all those types of things. But to me, you just try to stick with your rotation the best you can. If you're fortunate enough and you play 3 games in 4 days, you hope kind of the adrenaline on day 4 for the finals takes over. If you've got a chance to, you know, get guys off your feet, if the game presents itself, you try to be mindful of that. But, you know, we try to talk to our guys about staying in the moment and just taking them one game at a time. And I think coaching wise, you got to do the same thing. You know, you just got to try to focus on winning today. And if we're fortunate enough to score more points than Southeast today, then we'll try to focus on winning Friday. So, but kids are young, kids are resilient. It's a 32-minute game. You know, it's I think you just kind of stick with what's worked for you throughout the course of the year and allowed you to be successful.
Being in the capital city, have you given much thought to what kind of start you need to get off to, or is it kind of just it is a 32-minute game, considering they'll have a good contingency and they jumped on you early? They don't appear to like Westside very much, so that's the thing.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, obviously we hope the start's better than it was in December. I would prefer not to be down 25-10. But the one thing, our guys have been really resilient lately. You know, we've obviously played well the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, and you try to remind them if it doesn't go the way you wanted it to, that obviously we didn't play great in the first quarter against Bryan, and we got ourselves down 16-8 or 18-8 against Bryan, and we're able to get out of that hole and win the game. And then the last week of the regular season, we went down to Central, which is not an easy place to play, and got ourselves down 10 there too. So we don't want to do it. We've been there, and I think our guys will be confident we do. But if you'd ask me, I certainly hope we have 25 after the first quarter, not South this time.
That is
best wishes, Coach.
Coach Simons from Westside. Coach, good luck tonight, and I'm sure DB will catch up with you soon at the very least.
Yeah,
very good. Well, thanks, guys. We'll always take a little luck.
Thanks, Coach. I leave him alone on game days.
Well, I mean, except for today. That's Coach Jim Simons from Omaha Westside. That wraps up our boys state basketball previews. Games are already underway in Lincoln. Class A starts at 1:30. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio.